his mouth full of questions. Hey, why is there another satellite below it? Could that be the one that went missing from that island nation? Serves them right. Those little devils deserve a lesson. They never learn. Once Ho Chung saw the large sphere's satellite gradually disappearing, his chatter finally ceased, as he was too overwhelmed to speak. After a few minutes, when the satellite completely vanished, Ho Chung let out a breath, and his curiosity resurfaced. What kind of technology is this? Is it magic? How can it make the satellite disappear bit by bit? Did you notice the flowing black objects on the satellite earlier? Those are micro-robots created by Nuwa. They're less than a millimeter in size. The projection is too small for you to see them clearly. These micro-robots can decompose the satellite's material and transport it inside, Zheng Fan explained, noticing Ho Cheng's bewildered expression. Clearly struggling to understand. Just think of it as countless ants. Their shape is quite similar to ants, just much smaller, carrying pieces of animal carcasses back to their nest. Oh, now I get it. But isn't it a bit unethical to consume someone else's satellite? Ho Cheng tentatively asked, as he had come to inquire about the situation, only to discover that this guy was secretly engaged in a big operation. Seeing his probing gaze, Zheng Fan chuckled. Don't worry, apart from that island nation satellite that came over to cause trouble, the crawlers are only consuming space debris. Don't kid me. A synchronous satellite costs hundreds of millions to manufacture and launch. Which country wouldn't treat it like a lifeline? Is there really that much debris available for you to consume? Besides, aren't defunct satellites supposed to burn up upon re-entry into the atmosphere? Ho Chung seemed to possess some knowledge, but it was only partial. Those are low Earth orbit satellites. Their altitude is only a few hundred kilometers. After losing power, their orbits gradually decrease until they fall into the atmosphere and burn up. Some of them have been floating for decades. Our satellites are in a geostationary orbit at 36,000 kilometers, without power. They can drift for hundreds or even thousands of years. Humanity has launched thousands of synchronous orbit satellites over the past few decades. Where do you think those defunct ones have gone? Zheng Fan countered. Where do they all go? 300 kilometers outward from the synchronous orbit. There's a ring called the graveyard orbit, or junk orbit, where defunct high-altitude satellites are controlled to be sent. This is where the technological achievements of humanity over decades reside, albeit as defunct technological remnants. That's also why we need to launch the crawlers into geostationary orbit. The defunct satellites in the graveyard orbit are the fertile soil for our growth. We are willing to be the duty cleaners on the synchronous orbit, to clear away the garbage for the Earth. Ensure that this orbit is safe and smooth, Zheng Fan said earnestly. Chapter 197. Forgetting myself looking at the pretentious Zheng Fan, Ho Cheng suddenly felt like laughing. This kid must have spent a lot of time browsing the news. His official tone was quite impressive, although he still seemed a bit inexperienced. Alright, I understand what you mean. Anyway, you guys didn't suffer any losses, and it's not against the rules, so it's fine. Let those foreign folks call it what they want. In an era of information explosion, hot topics emerge one after another, and the hype surrounding the crawler account was quickly replaced by new trending events. Many people stopped paying attention to this issue, as there hadn't been any new information. Apart from some secondhand news from abroad, the same few images soon became tiresome to the public. It's hard to cook without rice. No matter how eloquent those self-media influencers are, they can't create a dish without ingredients. The crawler company's origin remains a mystery. Many who had their accounts reported or had been in the black room left a deep impression, and such matters are better kept private. Zheng Fan watched as Nuwa gradually built up the internal structure of the crawler account. Inside the small sphere, two large devices were added. One was a higher magnification electron microscope, which should be a self-developed device by Nuwa and her team. The robot didn't need eyes to see. The main body of this device was entirely for detection, simplifying the design considerably. The other device was a massive cylinder, 20 centimeters in diameter and over 3 meters long, suspended in the center of the sphere by two large supports, positioned horizontally above the circular test platform. It was said to be a defensive laser weapon. Below, a large sphere with a diameter of 20 meters was divided into 5 layers, using a material similar to carbon fiber. In the center of these 5 layers was an olive-shaped space that was completely open vertically. In the center of this space, countless micro-robots were constructing a spherical device over 3 meters in diameter. This device was connected to the inner wall of the large sphere through 6 bundles of 600 black fine threads, each 1 millimeter in diameter. According to Nuwa's introduction, this device could generate a strong magnetic field, which could be used to collect high-energy particles from the Earth's Van Allen radiation belts. Collecting enough high-energy particles would support the crawler account for longer distance travel. The defunct satellites in the graveyard orbit had almost been fully processed over the past month, and she had new objectives. In a month, a small asteroid with a diameter of over 20 meters would pass close to the Earth, with the nearest distance being less than 150,000 kilometers. She planned to capture this asteroid for decomposition research, with the next step being to land on the moon's surface utilizing its abundant resources for nuclear fusion reactor experiments. After hearing Nuwa's ambitious plans, Zhang Fan suddenly felt inadequate, as if apart from initially investing some money, he couldn't help with anything else. As if sensing his thoughts, Nuwa put forward a new request. I need many assistants to help. I hope you can assist me in producing space robots. What can I help you with from over 36,000 kilometers away on Earth? I have designed a brand new structure for a robot that is more suitable for space activities. Can you help me write a dedicated intelligent program? Nuwa's previously expressionless face seemed to come alive. No problem. This is my specialty. Zhang Fan happily agreed. It had been a long time since he had written a program himself. Usually, it was the programmers in the company who handled the adaptation of artificial intelligence applications. To complete this task as soon as possible, Zhang Fan did not go home with Li Hong during the Spring Festival and spent a long time focused on writing. Finally completing the initial version of the program. After a period of repeated debugging, it was barely successful, and the space robot could move freely, helping Nuwa share the workload. This was the longest program he had worked on since Chung completed his evolution. The reason for the difficulty was that Nuwa installed a newly developed superconducting quantum chip in this robot, which posed a challenge for Zhang Fan, as he had never dealt with this type of programming before. Fortunately, the core adaptability of the intelligent program was quite strong, and after countless debugging sessions, it finally managed to run on this new type of robot. This robot had a more sci-fi feel, no longer pursuing a human-like appearance. To adapt to the temperature variations in space, the main structure was made of lightweight composite materials, and the surface was coated with the latest solar and thermoelectric power generation composite coating. All joints were driven by electromagnetic mechanisms, and more than a dozen ion propulsion devices were installed throughout its body to facilitate movement in low-gravity vacuum environments. If equipped with laser guns and high-energy particle cannons, it would undoubtedly be a space warrior. Unfortunately, despite significant improvements compared to those on Earth, the batteries on these robots were still insufficient to support the launch of such energy weapons. They were not meant for combat. Instead, they were designed to assist Nuwa in various experiments with their efficient mobility and the computational power of the quantum chip, preparing for the construction of a lunar base. Compared to humanoid robots like Nuwa, the intelligence of the space robots was somewhat lacking. Although the core quantum chip had a grand-sounding name, it had many functional limitations. Being a serious underachiever, it was more suited for handling large-scale simple tasks in parallel, and its deep computational ability for complex situations was inferior to current chips. The space robots complemented Nuwa's latest achievement, the nanoscale robots, perfectly, utilizing the characteristics of the quantum chip. They could precisely command tens of billions or trillions of nanoscale robots to perform tasks, conducting synthesis experiments of special materials at the molecular level. These initial stage research results, through Wu Qi's practical development, were already sufficient to create immense value for Zhang Fan's company. The dust-free workshop built according to Wu Qi's design at Fenghua Glass had already begun trial production of the first batch of new intelligent power-generating glass, which was about to be used in the decoration of Zhang Fan's villa. To maximize the power generation capabilities of these materials, Zhang Fan decided to install this power-generating glass on the entire exterior wall and roof of the villa. Originally designed in a European style, it was uncertain what it would look like after this change, and Li Hong was the first to disagree, feeling that the design looked somewhat out of place. Zhang Fan took her to the site to see the actual effects, and Su Lu happened to come by and join them. Zhang Fan, how long has it been since you got a haircut? You used to have short hair, right? Now you even have bangs, haha. Su Lu teased him in the car. You can't get a haircut during the new year, and it's not summer now. Having longer hair isn't that hot. Zhang Fan had been staying at home writing programs for quite a while, and had completely forgotten about his appearance. Li Hong had reminded him twice, without success, and was too lazy to say anything more. Have you been living in a daze? Today is the 30th day of the second lunar month. Su Lu said incredulously. Ah, so fast. I feel like the new year just passed. Zhang Fan replied, genuinely surprised that he didn't feel much time had passed. You haven't even been downstairs for over 2 months, don't you know? Li Hong retorted. She was also quite dissatisfied. If it weren't for her pregnancy, and for the sake of the baby, she would have lost her temper countless times by now. They barely spoke 10 sentences a day, went to bed right after, and after a simple wash in the morning, he would be glued to the computer programming, not even realizing he hadn't eaten until food was placed right in front of him. I really didn't notice. I've had no time to play with my phone. I haven't kept track of time at all. Time really flies. Zhang Fan took out his phone to check the date. It was already March 23rd, and it had been nearly 3 months since the launch of the crawler. He truly envied the robots like Nuwa and Wu Qi. When focused on one thing, one can ignore everything else. Useless information doesn't register in the brain at all, and it feels like eating, sleeping, and even going to the bathroom is a waste of time. How nice it would be to be a robot, free from such worries. And even charging wouldn't affect work. After a little more than 10 minutes in the car, they arrived at the auto repair shop, a place Zhang Fan hadn't visited in a long time. Chapter 198, Capsule. Under the management of Yu Li, everything at the auto repair shop was normal. The experimental building to the south had already started construction, and the renovation of his house could be done by hired robots. However, building a large building required a qualified construction company and a professional supervisor, all of which Zhang Fan had entrusted to Chun Fei to arrange, hiring professional companies for construction and supervision. The villas in the northern courtyard had been renovated and were just waiting for a while to air out before moving in. The robot in charge of the renovation, Feng Lanlan, led her original team to join the construction of the experimental building. Some large instruments and equipment required a special site and structure, and the renovation and installation of equipment after the building was topped off would be her responsibility. The cream-colored three-story villa stood in the courtyard with a red glazed tile roof, and the tops of the doors and windows were designed in an arc shape, looking exactly like the original design plans. Why hasn't it changed at all? Didn't you say you were going to install power-generating glass? Li Hong asked in surprise. This is one of the features of our intelligent power-generating glass. Let me show you a magic trick, Zhang Fan said proudly. Without any visible action from the robots behind him, the entire appearance of the villa changed dramatically in an instant. The sloped red, glazed tile roof disappeared. The house transformed into a flat roof, and the white exterior walls vanished, replaced by huge floor-to-ceiling glass. A seamless panel of glass more than 10 meters high and over 30 meters wide, with no visible seams. The sunlight today is bright, but it doesn't create a large-scale reflection on this massive glass. The deep blue glass absorbs most of the light. What a fascinating glass. Was that all just a visual effect? Su Lu exclaimed. Where's the door? Should we just walk in? Just keep moving forward. They walked down the corridor of the courtyard to the end, just 2 meters away from the glass curtain wall. As the light and shadows shifted, 2 glass doors over 4 meters high automatically opened. It was only then that they noticed the doors had cylindrical handles over a meter long, which had been completely invisible before, achieving an effect of invisibility. Upon entering, they found themselves in a fully enclosed foyer over 3 meters wide, featuring ornate copper doors in a Western style. As they walked forward, the main door slowly opened automatically, revealing a spacious hall with a 2-story atrium. Sunlight poured in through the windows on the second floor, and directly opposite the main door was a massive background wall, empty and bare, with natural patterned marble tiles underfoot. How about the paintings you ordered? Can we arrange to hang them now? Zhang Fan asked. The large painting at the entrance isn't finished yet, but the others are nearly done. You don't need to worry about it. Li Hong replied as she looked around. On the left side of the background wall was a curved staircase, and on the right side was the elevator entrance. The first floor of the villa included not only the main hall, but also 2 dining rooms of different sizes, 2 kitchens, 1 Chinese and 1 Western, and 2 bedrooms with en-suite bathrooms, a gym, and more. The eastern side of the second floor was their master bedroom, complete with a separate living room, walk-in closet, lounge, bathroom, and so on. On the north and west sides, there were Zhang Fan's study, a media room, and 3 other guest rooms with a small living area. Wow, it's so spacious and beautiful. Your guest room is bigger than the entire area of my place, Su Lu exclaimed as she toured the space. It's just too big. With just the 2 of us living here, it feels so empty at night, Li Hong said. If others hear you, they'll think you're being dramatic. So many women dream of having a house this big, Su Lu remarked. If you're not used to it, just stay over there. You can move in when the kids are older, Zhang Fan said, feeling the emptiness too. Previously, over 10 people shared a house of more than 100 square meters, and he had his own small bedroom of 12 square meters, which was the 3rd largest in the house. It was much more spacious than the partitioned area of the living room, yet it still felt oppressive. He never imagined he would one day complain about a house being too big. Zhang Fan, Wu Qi wants you to check out the lab. The medical robot you ordered last time is ready. Yuan suddenly interjected. Is it the nanorobot that Sukin mentioned last time? Li Hong asked. Now the president of a brainwave medical company, as the completion of the nanorobot would count as her achievement. It should be. Let us go take a look, Zhang Fan replied. Having not visited in 3 months, they found that Wu Qi's lab had expanded again, occupying an entire floor. There was now a dedicated reception area outside the lab. After they arrived, they waited another 10 minutes before Wu Qi finally came out, showing no intention of inviting them in for a tour. Wu Qi has changed significantly compared to before. Her skin has been replaced with a material similar to that of the head of a mythical figure, making it more realistic and delicate, with a broader temperature adaptation range and some ability to generate electricity. Her clothing is made of a material resembling rainproof fabric, yet it appears very smooth and lightweight, with a texture similar to silk. Wu Qi placed a flat, round object with a diameter of 10 centimeters on the coffee table. Zhang Fan and Li Hong both recognized it. It was very similar to the projector in their living room, just a bit smaller, with a central hole about 4 to 5 millimeters in diameter. Wu Qi then took out two 15-centimeter-long black tubes from her pocket. The two tubes were identical, and their semi-transparent material allowed them to see neatly arranged capsules inside. She opened one end of the tube and poured out two identical capsules. One capsule was inserted upright into the small hole in the projector, while the other capsule was handed to Zheng Fan. Swallow this. It will give you a health check. Zheng Fan took it, opened his mouth, and swallowed the capsule with a gulp of saliva, causing Li Hong to roll her eyes at him. The projector emitted a beam of light, and a capsule-shaped light spot appeared in midair, slowly descending. As the capsule slid down, the area from his esophagus to the end was displayed in the projection. The projector utilized a new type of quantum chip that could control over 10 million microscale robots contained in the capsule to spread throughout the body, conducting a comprehensive health check. When combined with an intelligent diagnostic system, it should be able to detect most diseases. Wu Qi explained about the laboratory's latest invention. From the projection, it was evident that the capsule lingered in his stomach, and countless tiny light points began to spread from the stomach to the abdominal cavity and chest cavity, revealing blood vessels rapidly, as well as organs like the heart and lungs. One could even see the light points spreading throughout the body in sync with the heartbeat. Wow, that's amazing, Su Lu exclaimed, a bit dumbfounded. In less than 10 minutes, the entire outline of Zheng Fan's body, along with his blood vessels, organs, and muscles, was displayed. By sliding his finger on the edge of the projection to zoom in, even the capillaries in the skin became visible. The rise and fall of the chest with breathing and the bioelectric activity of the cerebral cortex were clearly shown, exhibiting extraordinary detail. The capsule's detection capability was truly impressive. These microrobots are non-toxic and harmless, fully absorbable by the human body. They begin to degrade gradually 4 hours after entering the body and are completely digested after 12 hours. Wu Qi continued her introduction. Can it only be used for health checks? Li Hong asked. If it's just for checkups, then its value would be greatly diminished. Wu Qi smiled for a rare moment and replied, they are robots that can accept precise instructions and collaborate to perform microsurgical operations on human cells, such as removing excess cancer cells, clearing embolisms in blood vessels, and addressing internal stones. Their main components are similar to platelets, and after excisions, they have a certain hemostatic effect. However, if the bleeding is too severe, they may also be powerless. So doctors and the intelligent diagnostic system need to carefully consider their use based on the patient's specific condition. Clinical validation is your responsibility. My lab is just here to provide customization as required. Chapter 199. Clinical trials. After listening to Wu Qi's introduction, the three of them were filled with thoughts. Su Lu exclaimed, does this mean it can cure all diseases? 1,000,000 surgical robots. There's no magical cure-all. Misusing any remedy can also be fatal. Li Hong retorted. That's true, which is why we need you to arrange clinical application trials to explore more viable treatment options. Wu Qi agreed. What about the production cost of these capsules? Zheng Fan was more concerned about the future price of the medication. If it was too expensive, it would just become exclusive to the wealthy. The main ingredients are starch and a small amount of iron. With one set of equipment, you can produce 1,000,000 pairs of capsules a day from a ton of starch and a few grams of iron. We can provide the equipment. One set costs 1,000,000. If it really can treat cancer, selling these capsules for 10,000 won be too expensive. This is not just a remedy. It's a bundle of cash. Li Hong, my good sister, I'm not going to do live streaming anymore. How about you sell me a few sets of equipment? I can help you with production. What do you think? Su Lu immediately sensed the opportunity for wealth. It's still early days. Clinical trials will take years, and we don't know when it will be available on a large scale. Li Hong remained non-committal. Su Lu, pharmaceutical factories are different from other factories. This qualification is not something just anyone can obtain. Equipment, location, and personnel all have strict standards. You can't just buy a set of equipment and casually produce and sell it at home. That could land you in jail. Zheng Fan patiently explained. What if I have a legally compliant factory? Can you sell me the equipment then? Su Lu persisted. You're my good sister. As long as you meet the conditions, I'll definitely prioritize you. I can even extend credit to you. Li Hong had to make a concession. All right, just wait. I'll do whatever it takes to set up the pharmaceutical factory, Su Lu said, shaking her fist and leaving energetically. The couple exchanged helpless smiles. Su Lu's motivation was instantly boosted upon hearing about the money-making opportunity. Having worked since graduating from middle school and traveled extensively over the years, especially after becoming a streamer, Su Lu had seen quite a bit of the world. She knew this opportunity was not to be missed, otherwise, she would regret it for life. The advantage of being a streamer is the chance to meet many people from various fields, especially those from the middle class and small business owners, who often spend money online to seek a sense of vanity and may even have a bit of fun. Among Su Lu's dedicated fans was an engineer from a pharmaceutical factory, Zhao Debao, who actively offered her advice. Upon hearing that she was mortgaging her house to start a factory, He even quit his job that same day and flew overnight from Jilin to help her plan, which deeply moved Su Lu. Li Hong's close friend Wang Dandan was working in Guizhou as a deputy county head in a remote county, focusing on attracting investment. After meeting Su Lu at her wedding, they kept in touch. Since building a pharmaceutical factory required government support, Su Lu reached out to Wang Dandan, and the two quickly hit it off. With their proactive approach, they would surely work efficiently together. With engineer Zhao Debao personally overseeing the project, Su Lu's funding and external relations, along with the full support of the government represented by Wang Dandan. Everything from the factory setup to the necessary qualifications and various permits was surprisingly completed in just 3 months. This was also thanks to Wu Qi's remarkably advanced production process design, featuring cutting-edge quantum synthesis equipment that made production incredibly streamlined and efficient. It only required a high-standard, dust-free workshop, a stable environmental temperature, and a reliable power supply to enable round-the-clock production, provided that high-salaried robots were employed. At this point, Li Hong's clinical trial application process for the new brainwave medical drug had just been completed, facilitated by Su Can's connections and the pioneering nature of their medication, which allowed for expedited processing. Inspired by Su Lu's phrase about a miraculous cure-all, the drug was named Baling Capsule. With all clinical trial capsules produced and supplied by Su Lu's Qianzhong Baling Pharmaceutical, the only authorized manufacturer at present. The first phase of the clinical trial was conducted in 10 authoritative hospitals in Yanjing, with volunteers primarily consisting of late-stage cancer patients who had either exhausted conventional treatments or had abandoned treatment due to financial constraints. These patients had been diagnosed with cancer at a late stage, with cancer cells having spread throughout their bodies, and most were not expected to survive beyond 6 months, as other treatments only managed to sustain their lives marginally. 50 volunteers of various ages, representing multiple types of cancer, were recruited, and hundreds of experts in the relevant fields in Yanjing joined in. Dividing into 10 small groups based on their respective hospitals. They developed detailed and meticulous treatment plans in conjunction with an intelligent diagnostic system, implementing treatment step by step. After a month, the cancer cells in all 50 patients of different cancer types and ages had significantly reduced. 5 patients with better health who underwent an aggressive treatment plan had completely cleared their cancer cells and were already in the recovery phase, about to be discharged. The 5 oldest patients who opted for conservative treatment not only managed to control the spread, but also eliminated more than half of their cancer cells, showing great hope for recovery and discharge. This miraculous outcome quickly garnered attention in the medical community through the promotion by these experts, and news of the Baling Capsule's ability to cure cancer spread widely. Hundreds of major hospitals nationwide actively applied for Phase 2 and 3 clinical trials. The families of patients became particularly sensitive to this anti-cancer drug, and soon, wards in 10 hospitals were filled with patients eager to participate in the clinical trials, with many willing to spend large amounts of money, as most of these well-informed families were financially capable. As the host of the Baling Capsule clinical trial, Su King's phone was inundated with calls, forcing him to turn it off for extended periods. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to accomplish anything, spending all his time just answering calls. Consequently, through requests from relatives and friends, they found themselves overwhelmed with visitors, causing the couple to have to change their place of residence. Unfortunately, each person behind these requests had a critically ill patient. Refusing would violate social norms, while accepting would be inhumane. This was not just the case for Su Can. All experts involved in the clinical trials faced similar situations. Given the special nature of the medication and the urgent needs of numerous patients, the responsible regulatory authority for new drug approvals has decided, after urgent discussions, to cancel the double-blind trials of the second phase for the Baling Capsule and to proceed directly with large-scale Phase 3 clinical trials. All top-tier hospitals across the country can apply to participate in the Phase 3 clinical trials, provided they have already integrated with the intelligent diagnostic system of brainwave medical technology. Every year, hundreds of new drugs undergo clinical trials, but none have attracted as much attention as this one. Even many renowned medical institutions from abroad have submitted applications, and numerous international patients have come to the country for hospitalization to receive early treatment. With the experience gained from the first phase of clinical trials, the treatment plans for the third phase have become much bolder, involving thousands of hospitals and hundreds of thousands of patients, including not only cancer patients of various stages, but also many with cardiovascular diseases, kidney stones, and other conditions. The expanded scope of this trial has yielded astonishing results, with a cure rate exceeding 70% for various stages of cancer within a month. The remaining 30% are in more severe conditions and require conservative treatment. However, even these patients have shown significant improvement, with many expected to be cured. The Baling Capsule does not contain any chemical drug components, and as long as the doctor's treatment plan is appropriate, it has almost no side effects and minimal physical harm to the body, allowing for quick recovery. doctors from various departments and hospitals have begun to study the applications of this medication. Dentists are exploring its use for tooth extraction and cleaning. Dermatologists are researching acne treatment and mole removal. One innovative doctor successfully studied tattoo removal, gaining significant recognition, and ophthalmologists are, of course, investigating treatments for various eye diseases, including cataracts and laser surgeries for myopia, as well as many other eye conditions that are difficult to diagnose and treat. The Baling capsule provides doctors with a brand new means of diagnosis and treatment, with countless possibilities waiting to be explored. Unexpectedly, Su Lu's prophecy has come true. This capsule indeed has the potential to cure all ailments. Her company, Qianzhong Baling Pharmaceutical, has ramped up production to full capacity. Although the clinical trials have not yet generated revenue, it is clear to everyone that the prospects are promising. Thus, despite being in debt for hundreds of millions, she remains energetically committed to her work every day. Whenever she thinks of the machines operating, it feels akin to printing money for herself, instantly dispelling her fatigue. As the core figure behind the development of this medication, Zheng Fan, who believes he has not contributed much, has long forgotten this and has immersed himself back into the research of quantum chips. Although the drug testing projectors and space robots have utilized these chips, their actual capabilities have yet to be fully realized. The existing programming methods and computer hardware systems impose many limitations on these chips, requiring a complete overhaul of the computer architecture and language system from the ground up to unlock the full potential of quantum chips. This is a massive system engineering project. Zheng Fan felt a tremendous challenge, but also an unprecedented motivation. If successful, it would represent a leap in computing power for Aqing and could potentially unlock the ultimate secrets of this world. Such work in the past required the collaboration of thousands of experts, but now it can be entrusted to Aqing. The core element is creativity, and Zheng Fan has yet to find a starting point from 0 to 1. During this period, many events occurred externally, with the most sensational and influential being the listing of brainwave technology on the stock exchange in a certain major city. To achieve this listing goal, several directors, including Jamie, Min Xiao, and Gao Hua, exerted all their efforts. Given the strength and future prospects of brainwave technology, going public through a backdoor listing was not difficult. The challenge lay in the initial confidentiality work to prevent the target company from being ambushed and having its price manipulated, as well as the valuation before the listing. For such a large company, a slightly lower valuation could mean losses in the tens of billions, while a too high valuation could lead to a failed issuance, turning them into a joke, possibly leading to resignations. Fortunately, the listing of brainwave technology was highly anticipated. The aim was to break the control of a certain country over superintelligence, and some high-ranking individuals in that country also did not wish for the founders to maintain control indefinitely. As superintelligence Aqing became more involved in government affairs, this hope gradually reached a consensus among the founders. With the rapid growth in company value and an expanding business landscape, each person began to have their own business scope, and their interests started to differ, leading to a natural distancing in their relationships. The largest shareholder, Lu Yifan, shared a similar personality with Zheng Fan, showing little pursuit for fame or profit, with the greatest passion being their research. Neither opposed the other, and others were glad that their stocks could be directly liquidated. With the founders' team maintaining this attitude, the resistance to the listing essentially disappeared. After more than 8 months of preparation, the parliament of the major country even specially amended relevant rules. Through various efforts, the listing goal was finally achieved. Unlike many other emerging tech companies, Brainwave Technology did not implement a dual-class share structure from the start because they did not lack funds during their initial fundraising. The founding team remained united and maintained actual control, which also reduced many complications for the company's listing. Brainwave Technology issued 16 billion shares, accounting for 16 of total shares, with a share price set at 30, expecting to raise 480 billion, leading to a company valuation of 3 trillion, making it the most valuable company in the world. On the day of listing, the stock briefly surged past 100 per share and closed at 78, with the company's market value approaching 8 trillion, surpassing the combined stock prices of the previous top 5 companies. In the following period, the stock price fluctuated but remained above 70. This seemingly crazy listing plan is a reluctant move driven by various sectors in a certain country. With the rapid global proliferation of artificial intelligence technology, many high-tech companies they pride themselves on have seen their market values plummet, losing nearly half of their total value compared to a year ago, leading to a bleak market environment. This situation can also be attributed to the lack of ambition from the founding team, led by Lu Yifan. Otherwise, with the advantages of superintelligence, they could easily dominate fields such as operating systems, cloud services, shopping payments, search, and social networking, making the situation even more dire. A company that has only been established for 2 years has managed to overpower many large companies in that country, which is quite remarkable. The current reality is that if you can't compete, you join forces. In the first round of financing, several major tech companies have already completed mutual shareholding with Brainwave Technology, and directors have been exchanged between boards. Most of the substantial funds raised this time will also be used for acquisitions, aiming for deep integration of these enterprises. As the founder of the company, Liu Yifen's indirect shareholding in Brainwave Technology has been diluted to less than 18%. Based on an estimated market value of $7 trillion, his net worth still exceeds $1,200 billion, setting an unprecedented record for the richest person. The previous richest individual, the founder of a well-known e-commerce company, has seen their wealth drop to $60 billion. The 8 original shareholders of Brainwave Technology, Gao Hua and Su Huiyun, have seen their share ratios diluted to just over 1%. Even with these shares, their net worth has reached over $70 billion, surpassing the previous richest individual by more than $10 billion. This has again created an unprecedented record, as all 8 founders of Brainwave Technology have collectively made it onto the Forbes Rich list, breaking records from 1 to 8. Even the company's dozen or so long-standing employees, who initially received 1/10,000th of the company's shares, have now amassed hundreds of millions in wealth. Zheng Feng, the secretary of a certain individual, was so excited on the day of the stock listing that she hardly slept, showing up to work with dark circles under her eyes. When she arrived at the office, she found she wasn't alone. Many others were in the same boat. Most of the old employees who received stock options have since left, and those who remain are at least at the deputy director level. This small group has an internal chat group where they discuss stock price fluctuations daily, calculating their wealth and envisioning a bright future. Alas, I haven't even been in a relationship yet, and suddenly I've become wealthy. How will I find a boyfriend in the future? What if they only want my money? Zheng Feng has also been distracted from work lately, troubled by her own concerns. Of course, sudden wealth doesn't come without its challenges. Wu Zhen, the chairman of Brainwave Games, is quite troubled. Since the company's first dividend last year, he has achieved complete financial freedom. Moreover, the daily operations of the gaming company are minimal, with most employees busy playing Find the Difference games, managed by subordinates with history backgrounds. He only needs to review daily reports. And out of boredom, he has started to develop a flirtatious relationship with his secretary. Wealth can enhance a man's charm. In the eyes of the secretary, Wu Zhen, who is short, chubby, and balding, possesses an astonishing charm. As they interacted more, the two became involved with each other. Not only that, but the overly pleased Wu Zhen often put on passionate displays in the office. However, there are no secrets that can be kept forever, especially since Wu Zhen's sister-in-law, Wang Xiaoyu, also works in the company. With her qualifications and status, she quickly became the vice president in charge of human resources and administrative logistics when the company was established. Naturally charismatic, she had far better relationships within the company than Wu Zhen, and she learned about the affair almost immediately. Initially, she had no intention of meddling in her sister's affairs. If he wanted to have an affair in private, that was one thing, but making it public during the day was another matter entirely. Everyone in the company knew he was her brother-in-law. Wasn't he that just embarrassing her on purpose? Consequently, Wu Zhen found himself in a dire situation. In front of the entire company, not only was he caught red-handed by his wife, Wang Xiaoxue, but he also ended up with a bruised face and was sent packing to his grandmother's house. Chapter 201, Approaching Labor. Alas, a single misstep leads to eternal regret. Wu Zhen lamented, raising his glass and downing it in one go. Having been kicked out by his wife, Wu Zhen, who was not short on money, certainly had places to stay. However, he needed somewhere to vent his grievances. Looking around, there were hardly any people left who could hear his hard-ass voice. His immense wealth had brought him to the top, but his former friends and acquaintances were no longer on the same level as him. Conversations felt awkward, and both sides sensed discomfort. They could no longer joke around freely as they used to. Stop pretending to be pitiful. Just one word, serves you right. Su Kan joked without holding back. In the company, his only close relationships were with Su Kan and Zheng Fan, with no one else to confide in. He had no choice but to vent to these two. Within a day, his situation had spread throughout the company. This was at his temporary residence, a presidential suite in a 5-star hotel, where several empty bottles were strewn across the floor, leaving the luxurious room in a chaotic state. What is going on? I heard your wife wants a divorce. Don't you have 2 kids? Zheng Fan, not wanting to add insult to injury, expressed understanding for Wu Zhen's feelings. Both were programmers and not particularly handsome, having worked hard to find a wife. Zheng Fan's circumstances had previously been much worse than Wu Zhen's, but at least he had married a PhD from a prestigious university. Over the past 2 years, their situations had become somewhat similar, the difference being that he had managed to restrain his desires while Wu Zhen had indulged, leading to his unfortunate downfall. My whole family is on her side. My parents, my daughter, my son, they all see me as an irredeemable bad guy. Wu Zhen lifted his head and took another drink. With wealth comes a different experience. drowning his sorrows in wine that costs thousands per bottle. The most significant difference between humans and animals is that humans understand how to control their desires. In doing things, one can have long-term plans. Look at you. The more you live, the more you regress. Being embarrassed now is actually a good thing. It can help you wake up and recognize who you really are. Sukin snatched the bottle from him and set it aside. Seeing he couldn't get the bottle back, Wu Jun reclined on the sofa and continued to express his grievances. Others are getting richer and living better, but here I am, it has become worse than before. You still make me sleep on the sofa at every turn and kick me out for no reason. If I come back from work a few minutes late, you interrogate me like a criminal. You don't leave me any dignity. Then just leave. Isn't that what you want? From now on, you can soar high and fly free. After all, you're not short on money. You can be a groom every day and change brides every night. With mothers-in-law all over the country. How great is that? What are you waiting for? Coming here to drown your sorrows in alcohol. Aren't you ashamed? Sukin smiled and encouraged him. But I don't want a divorce. I want to live a good life. Wu Jun shouted loudly. Oh, I see. You want to have it both ways. You want to keep the home flag flying while having colorful flags outside. Unfortunately, my brother, you don't have that capability. Money can fuel your desires and also cloud your judgment. This is a case of virtue not matching position. Sukin's reasoning was clear, leaving Wu Jun speechless. It was obvious that Wu Jun was still unconvinced. That little secret of yours has been around for more than just a day or two, right? I heard Zhang Fan mention it last year. He was quite envious. Sukin didn't forget to tease Zhang Fan. I've never envied him. I just think he is too blatant. Wang Xiaoyu is in the same company. I can tell even when I go there occasionally. Can't Wang Xiaoyu know? Can't his wife know? Zhang Fan defended himself. Sukin continued from where he left off, targeting Wu Jun. Is this your attitude towards living a good life? Which woman wouldn't notice if her husband has a flirty secretary? But at that time, Lily and I had nothing going on. You're just burying your head in the sand and fantasizing that others are blind to it. Do you think you're a king? Shouldn't your wife also take the initiative to bring in concubines for you and ask you to flip cards every night? Wu Jun fell silent, feeling like he might have gone a bit too far. Have I really become a bit arrogant? Even if you want to cheat, can't you use your brain? Goodness. Right under everyone's noses, doing it repeatedly. What do you think Wang Xiaoyu feels about this? If you really managed your company like a fortress, that would be one thing, but the problem is you don't have that ability. To be honest, what you're getting is still light. I really don't know where you got your courage from. You're still here, trying to drown your sorrows. One misstep leads to a lifetime of regret. I just want to live a good life. Bah, don't you have any shame? Sukin smiled, but his words were merciless. Wu Jun's face turned red, unsure if it was from the alcohol or from being scolded. So what should I do now? After a long time, Wu Jun sat up and asked softly, how old are you? Why ask others what to do? If you want to continue living, sincerely admit your mistakes, reflect properly, and wait for the outcome. As for your marital issues, you should figure that out yourself. If you don't want to continue, that's simple. Just keep breaking things. Keep drinking this expensive wine. After all, you have money. Drink one bottle, spill another. It's none of our business. Sukin placed half a bottle of wine in front of him. After leaving Wu Jun's presidential suite and taking the elevator down, Zhang Fan asked, Hey Su, how is that clinical trial going? When will the capsules be on the market? Don't you and Li Hong communicate at home? Sukin looked at him strangely and asked, I've been quite busy lately, and she rarely brings up work-related matters. Zhang Fan answered somewhat shyly. Do you know when her due date is? I think it's in June, right? Zhang Fan said, a bit uncertain. It's just this week. In the next couple of days. Maybe today, maybe tomorrow. You're really making this easy for me as a dad. Sukin said with a mix of amusement and helplessness. No wonder he is a doctor. Sukin's predictions were spot on. They had just left the hotel when Zhang Fan received a call from Li Hong. I'm in labor, on the way to the hospital. Speaking of which, Li Hong is quite strong-willed. Even with her due date approaching, she didn't say she would stay in the hospital or at home, still going to work every day. It wasn't until she suddenly felt her water break and started having contractions that she slowly packed her things, letting the robotic assistant help her downstairs to the hospital. All while remembering to call Zhang Fan. By the time they arrived at the hospital, Li Hong had already entered the delivery room. Perhaps having seen this situation many times as a nurse, she still had the mood to comfort Zhang Fan. Don't worry, all my prenatal checkups have been normal. It's just that the waiting process might take a bit longer. If you haven't had lunch yet, you should go eat. Keep a good mindset. You don't need to worry about company matters. I'm here. Sukin encouraged her with a few words, then left without staying long. He was the head of clinical trials, busy every day with hospital departments, teaching, and company matters. Do you need to eat something to replenish your energy? What do you feel like eating? I can have Yuan bring it over. Zhang Fan asked. I just finished eating a little while ago, and I started feeling unwell. So I came to the hospital. You haven't called my parents, have you? Not yet. After receiving the call, Zhang Fan remained calm on the surface but felt anxious inside. He couldn't think of anything else. That's good. Don't let them worry. We'll inform them after the baby is born. My grandmother, my mom, and my aunt all had natural births without much trouble. I'm fine. I've even participated in assisting deliveries multiple times, so I'm quite familiar with it. You don't need to be nervous. It's okay, Li Hong said softly. Chapter 202. Daughter. Speaking of which, Li Hong can be considered a celebrity at this hospital. She started her internship here and has worked here for 7 years after graduation, being diligent and responsible, with a solid reputation. Especially after resigning, she quickly made a remarkable transition, joining a medical technology company, participating in the development and promotion of medical robots and intelligent diagnostic systems. In less than a year, she went from vice president to president, with an annual salary reportedly in the millions, not including bonuses, a true winner in life. Of course, the hospital strongly supports the products of the medical technology company, achieving great results, which can be seen as a win-win situation for both sides. Particularly, the recent clinical trials of the Biling capsule have helped dozens of late-stage cancer patients recover and be discharged, greatly enhancing the hospital's reputation. The hospital's flagship department, the minimally invasive cosmetic surgery department, has pioneered a series of new applications such as intelligent capsules for tattoo removal, permanent hair removal, and acne whitening, which have raised the profile of this new type of medication, attracting many new customers and patients. In the future, these will generate substantial revenue and provide more performance rewards for everyone. When it comes to the name Li Hong, everyone in the hospital admires and envies her. No one can find any faults. With over 2,000 employees at the hospital, she has only interacted with a small portion, yet almost everyone knows her. Over the past year, she has worked closely with various departments and specialties for product promotion. When she was a nurse, she might not have attracted much attention, but now that she has become the president, her presence cannot be ignored. After all, she is a colleague who came from here, and everyone shares in her achievements, which adds to their own prestige when chatting. So-and-so is my colleague. I took care of her back when we worked together, and we were really close. As a result, her pregnancy and delivery have received the utmost attention here. Director Zhou from the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department personally oversees her prenatal checkups, confirms her due date, and even reserves a private delivery room for her. The waiting process for labor is quite dull. Neither she nor her husband are talkative, and with the increasingly frequent contractions, she has even less inclination to speak. Li Hong, how's it going? How much longer until the baby comes? Lu Xiaoyuan bursts in excitedly, fumbling with her nurse's uniform buttons. Aren't you on the night shift? Why rush over? Haven't you seen enough births? Li Hong frowns, waiting for the contraction pain to subside before asking. Of course it's different. This is my goddaughter. I have to see her born. Lu Xiaoyuan defiantly responds, completely disregarding Li Hong's status as a laboring mother. Now it's about every 10 minutes for contractions. I estimate it'll be another 2 to 3 hours. Li Hong knows this well. When I came in, I saw that there are only 3 expectant mothers waiting, including you. I'll stay here with you for a while. Your husband is such a quiet guy, he won't even chat with you. Lu Xiaoyuan rolls her eyes at Zheng Fan. How long have you been dating that boyfriend of yours? Why aren't you getting married yet? Don't drag it out. It'll end up falling apart. Li Hong asks with concern, as Lu Xiaoyuan can be considered a half matchmaker for them, hoping she finds a good partner. Don't even mention it. It's already over. Lu Xiaoyuan bluntly admits. Why? Just a couple of days ago, everything seemed fine. I saw you showing off your relationship on social media. Our family isn't asking for a huge betrothal gift. We can share the down payment on a house and pay the mortgage together. Yet he still hesitates about marriage. That day, after posting on social media, I happened to check his phone and found some inappropriate chat logs with several other women. It made my heart ache. Ugh. What a scumbag. He deserves nothing good. He deceived me for over a year. I was really blind to have liked someone like him. Lu Xiaoyuan vents her frustration. It's not worth getting upset over a person like that. Next time, keep your eyes open. Zheng Fan comforts her. He and Li Hong had once invited them to dinner, and Zheng Fan had a bad impression of that guy, feeling he was quite slick, but as an outsider, he couldn't say much. Do you have any friends like you, who are steady and reliable? Please introduce one to me. Lu Xiaoyuan was never really interested in someone like Zheng Fan before. After this setback, she reflected on herself and felt that she deserved it. She wanted to find someone honest, even if they were a bit dull. At least they wouldn't be capable of being unfaithful. Zheng Fan thought carefully. He didn't have many friends, and it seemed that none of them were single. Most already had children. How many people did you want him to introduce? Li Hong couldn't help but laugh, but halfway through, she frowned. Then introduce me to a rich and handsome guy, so I can have my moment. Drive that jerk crazy, Lu Xiaoyuan said bluntly. Li Hong's frown relaxed after more than a minute. Lu Xiaoyuan's daily job was helping people give birth, and she had much more experience than Li Hong. Knowing the situation, she quickly rang the bell to notify the doctor. Director Zhou from the Obstetrics and Gynecology Department hurried over with several assistants, first politely asking Zheng Fan to step outside before preparing for the delivery. The whole process went surprisingly smoothly. There were no heart-rending screams from Li Hong. In less than half an hour, the baby was born. Director Zhou walked out of the delivery room with a smile, congratulating Zheng Fan. Congratulations. Mother and child are safe. Thank you, Director Zhou. Can I go in now? Zheng Fan asked. Wait a moment. She'll be transferred to the maternity ward soon. Li Hong is doing well. If she doesn't want to stay in the hospital, she can go home after a few hours of rest. Director Zhou didn't leave immediately, but started chatting with Zheng Fan. That was fast. I thought she would stay for a few days. Zheng Fan was surprised. Your wife has good genes, proper care during pregnancy, a natural birth, no medications. No surgery. Her recovery will be quick. Thanks to your excellent skills, Director Zhou. Li Hong and I will bring the baby over to thank you later. Zheng Fan sincerely appreciated the kind-looking elderly lady. I'm just adding a little sparkle. I can't take credit for it. All right, the baby is here. The delivery room door opened, and Li Hong was pushed out on a bed with the baby in her arms by Lu Xiaoyuan and another nurse. The baby's small face was wrinkled, eyes tightly closed, and little mouth opening and closing continuously. This was their child, the continuation of life. Zheng Fan's eyes were irresistibly drawn to the baby, and he unconsciously followed them to the ward, everything around him seeming to vanish. No matter how he looked at his child, they were adorable, and he couldn't get enough of watching every little movement. Let's give her a name. Li Hong, in good spirits after giving birth, found Zheng Fan's silly expression a bit amusing. Let's call her Zheng Yu, like the moon. Zheng Fan suddenly thought of Nuwa, who was busy conducting various research on the moon, wondering what new breakthroughs she had recently achieved, hoping she would continue to bring surprises. Zheng Yu is a nice name. Let's go with that. Your surname is good. It's easy to name, and there are few duplicates. At this moment, near the edge of the Aitken Basin at the moon's south pole, the large ball of the Chuangcheng spacecraft was quietly parked there, its lower half completely embedded in the lunar surface. The special coating on its surface had an invisibility effect, making it difficult to spot any flaws even when approached closely. 50 meters below the crawler, a massive steel base is under construction. The landing site chosen by the goddess is situated above a red iron ore deposit, where trillions of nanobots tirelessly decompose various substances in the ore day and night, under the control of quantum chips from space robots. The interior of the ore is being hollowed out piece by piece, transforming the ore into special alloys that form the beams, foundations, and walls of the base. With this unprecedented mining technology, an underground space exceeding 2 kilometers in length, width, and height is taking shape. Here, a vast robotic factory continuously produces new robots that will command an even larger number of invisible nanobots to keep excavating the mine, enhancing and expanding the base. Not far from the factory stands a cubic steel structure with an area of 10,000 square meters, measuring 100 meters in length, width, and height. At the center of the building is a huge space measuring 25 meters in each dimension, where a nuclear fusion device over 15 meters tall and 10 meters in diameter is under construction. Everything in this base is invisible in Zheng Fan's projection. He can only see the contents within the large sphere above, which houses a small nuclear fusion experimental device that has successfully begun operation with the abundant resources from the moon. Chapter 203. Cooperation research on quantum chips has made no progress. Zheng Fan has devoted all his time and energy to taking care of his daughter, being on call 24 hours a day, handling all her needs. He is busy every day, but doesn't he tire of it? If it weren't for needing Li Hong to provide regular supplies for his daughter, he would have considered going back to work, aside from breastfeeding. He doesn't have to lift a finger. Yuan and Li Hong's robotic assistant, Han Baikong, has learned a range of skills akin to a postpartum nurse, but has had minimal opportunity to use them, often only assisting, leaving their feelings uncertain. Li Hong's parents stayed for a while and praised Zheng Fan, feeling reassured. Once the baby completed her full month, they returned home as their work could not be neglected. They couldn't stay at their daughter's house indefinitely, without the worry of the child. Li Hong focused all her attention on postpartum recovery. On the second day after giving birth, she began chest recovery training. On the fourth day, she worked on neck recovery. On the fifth day, leg recovery. On the eighth day, hip recovery. And on the 15th day, abdominal recovery. After diligently following through with each step, her body quickly returned to its pre-pregnancy state once the baby was a month old, or at least that's what Zheng Fan thought. Li Hong, however, was not satisfied and frequently lamented that she had gained 15 pounds and needed to lose it, starting to do aerobic exercises daily at the clubhouse downstairs. Thanks to being able to fall asleep quickly, Zheng Fan's biological clock has become exceptionally precise, synchronized with his daughter's feeding schedule. Often, as soon as Zheng Yu opens her eyes and begins to cry, the bottle is already in her mouth, showcasing an incredible father-daughter bond. Excess milk is squeezed out and stored in the refrigerator, allowing Li Hong to sleep soundly until dawn. Zheng Fan takes on the night feedings without feeling bothered at all. Watching their child's skin gradually smooth out and weight steadily increase fills him with happiness. The usually quiet Zhang Fan becomes quite talkative in front of his daughter, chattering endlessly until she falls asleep. In contrast to Zhang Fan's blissful life as a new dad, Major General Red, commander of the Space Force, has had a tough 6 months. First, during the launch and tracking of the Reptile spacecraft, he lost a satellite from an island nation. Although he hoped to achieve his goals, he ended up with nothing, receiving a scolding from the Supreme Leader, losing both face and reputation. Just when he thought things would settle down, less than 2 months later, they discovered something even more bizarre. Thousands of derelict satellites in the graveyard orbit had completely vanished. The Space Force constantly monitors operational satellites and spacecraft, as well as derelict satellites and debris surrounding Earth. Currently, there are over 12 million pieces of debris smaller than 1 centimeter, about 900,000 pieces ranging from 1 to 10 centimeters, and around 34,000 pieces larger than 10 centimeters in Earth's orbit. All of these are under the watchful eye of the Space Force. Yet, under such strict surveillance, thousands of derelict satellites have inexplicably disappeared, and they are unable to determine the cause. After repeated analysis and comparison of incoming data, a major finally identified the issue and excitedly reported to Red. "Sir, I found the cause. It must be the Reptile spacecraft." "You fool, even a child knows that. The key is evidence. While we can accuse them without proof, we could also face serious backlash. If they decide to target our operational satellites, we will be helpless." Red scolded. "Sir, each time the Reptile spacecraft reappears in orbit, a portion of the satellites in the graveyard orbit disappear. I believe they are recharging at that moment, which is when the Reptile is at its weakest." The major officer analyzed. "What should we do then? Send a satellite to deliver them a midnight snack? Overindulge them?" Red's temper had been extremely volatile lately. "Use our laser weapons to ambush them when they are at their weakest," the major suggested. "Get out of here. I don't want to see you again." Red was too lazy to explain further to this guy. Those damned arms dealers have been scamming funding since the 1990s. After decades of research, who knows how much military funding has been wasted? The so-called space-based laser weapons are still on paper. Current laser weapons can only target objects within 30 kilometers and require a minute of continuous exposure. What can that do in space? Would anyone just wait there for you to get that close? It's nothing but child's play. It's all because of this group of incompetent individuals, leaving us helpless to watch the other side act recklessly without any means to counter it. They surely have a larger conspiracy in mind, but unfortunately, the leader is busy with the elections and has denied my retirement application. When will this torturous situation end? It felt as if I could hear the voice of my inner self. For the next 2 months, the target spacecraft surprisingly did not appear. It would be best if it vanished forever like those decommissioned satellites. Red silently prayed again. Unfortunately, this time his wish did not come true. The spacecraft reappeared in orbit, remaining stationary and no longer flickering in and out of sight. At the same time, something more terrifying happened. The debris from decommissioned satellites in low Earth orbit began to decrease gradually. They had more satellites here and stronger surveillance capabilities. Yet they still couldn't find any trace of the other side. This situation became quite awkward, despite the military and space agency using various means to block information. There are too many amateur astronomers on Earth, and this situation would eventually be discovered. How would they explain it then? Would they admit to the military's incompetence, that their space forces are nothing but a paper tiger? "Hey, Red, we might have a solution to our worries." The chief of staff brought him good news. "Minister Spur is going to visit a certain country soon, and you are notified to accompany him. You can have a serious discussion with them about the peaceful utilization of space. Space should belong to all humanity," the chief of staff said with a smile. "Oh, these politicians are indeed cunning, but this is a good approach." Red felt both humiliated and helpless. A week later, the defense minister led a delegation of dozens to visit a certain country, which included General Red, the commander of the Space Forces. The two sides held friendly talks and reached a series of cooperative intentions, especially in the field of space. Both agreed that cooperation should replace confrontation to jointly protect the Earth, which humanity relies on for survival. Upon returning home, General Red, along with the director of the space agency, submitted a report to Congress, demanding the repeal of the outdated provisions that hinder cooperation and strengthening collaboration in space. Or else they risk falling behind comprehensively, losing their advantage in future space endeavors. In just 1 month, the two countries reached multiple open cooperation agreements in areas such as space station construction, Mars exploration, lunar exploration, and lunar base construction. The country would provide accumulated data over the years to strengthen information exchange in cosmic exploration. Subsequently, media outlets reported that a team led by Professor Richard from MIT discovered that space debris in the near-Earth environment was rapidly decreasing. If the current trend continues, it may all disappear by the end of the year, with the specific reasons remaining unclear. A spokesperson for the space agency later confirmed Professor Richard's findings, acknowledging that the optimization of the near-Earth environment is beneficial for the safe operation of thousands of satellites in orbit, which is something all countries are pleased to see. On a day in July, while busy taking care of the children, Zheng Fan welcomed a few special guests to his home. Chapter 204, Mars Exploration. Everyone present was familiar with each other, so there was no need for Ho Chang to introduce himself. Vice President Zhang from the Aerospace Group and Chief Engineer Liu from the Subordinate Research Institute were among them. At that moment, Zheng Fan had just managed to put his precious daughter to sleep, placing a finger to his lips to signal everyone to keep their voices down. Li Hong took out the tea set that hadn't been used for a long time, cleaned it thoroughly, and served tea to everyone. Afterward, she took the child to the bedroom, leaving the living room for the others. Ho Chung glanced at the three-dimensional projector in the center of the coffee table, which seemed different from the last time, and joked, "Your 12 billion really wasn't wasted. It's incredible how it has frightened everyone over the past 6 months." Vice President Zhang understood the implication of Ho Chung's words and awkwardly explained, "At that time, the pressure on the rocket's relaunch was immense, and we had no choice. If Mr. Zheng has any more launch contracts, we can offer a half-price discount. I willingly contributed that money, and the outcome has been mutually beneficial, so you don't need to worry about it." Zheng Fan smiled, easing Zhang's embarrassment. Interestingly, Chief Engineer Liu had known Zheng Fan the longest, but now seemed the most unfamiliar. Liu was one of the first to witness Zheng Fan's invention of the artificial intelligence program, and had seen a series of miraculous developments since then. The sensational effect caused by the listing of brainwave technology had not yet faded, and now, seeing Zheng Fan again, felt surreal. "Liu, it's been a long time. Your Mars probe should be launching soon, right?" Zheng Fan initiated the conversation, noticing Liu's slight awkwardness. "It's set to launch by the end of this month. Our visit is related to that. I heard your crawler is equipped with an intelligent robot. Our probe is also prepared to carry a robot. I wonder if there is a possibility for collaboration in this area?" Liu spoke directly without any pretense. Zheng Fan did not immediately agree, but instead activated the three-dimensional projector on the coffee table. Beams of light shot out, displaying 6 balls of the same size in a circle of black and white, hovering about 30 centimeters above the projector. Each ball was spaced apart, set against different backgrounds. Zheng Fan swiped his finger, enlarging one ball while the others disappeared. The enlarged ball was situated in a vast wasteland, scattered with chaotic stones and gravel, with indistinct hills in the distance. A large black ball was partially buried among the rocks and sand, and further away was an expanse of darkness. "Is this Mars?" Academician Liu asked in surprise, as he had studied the terrain here for several years and was very familiar with it. "Perhaps. I haven't been there, so I can't be sure," Zheng Fan replied with a smile, though he couldn't hide his pride. As they spoke, he continued to enlarge the image and entered the interior of the large ball. It was divided into 5 layers, with a fusion reactor at the center. Unlike the first time he saw it, this time the large ball was filled with numerous space robots, methodically performing their tasks. And the 5 layers were filled with various instruments and equipment. At the bottom of the large ball was a rectangular metallic structure over 5 meters high, likely an elevator leading underground. They could see a space robot entering it before disappearing. "Are you planning to build a base underground on Mars?" Vice President Zhang asked in surprise. "Half a year ago, we only launched a capsule. This is too fantastical, isn't it? Is this guy trying to fool us with a sci-fi short film?" "It must be. I heard they have a brainwave media company that specializes in collaborating with film companies, so creating such special effects shouldn't be too difficult." However, Ho Chung was confident in Zheng Fan and mocked, back when the reptilian spacecraft was about to launch. "You all had endless doubts. Those decommissioned satellites that disappeared in space can't be fake, right? You are all experts in aerospace. Teach me. How did you scare the foreigners into coming to seek cooperation with just a few sci-fi short films?" Vice President Zhang was left speechless. After all, they were the ones at a disadvantage. They had been developing for decades ahead, accumulating a lot of data that couldn't be measured in monetary terms. Just one probe from decades ago was worth over $100 million, and they had launched dozens of them. You might spend several times the money and still not be able to gather such data, which took countless experts years of hard work to collect bit by bit. This Mars laboratory needs our robotic scientists to host. If we can cooperate, it would be a great opportunity for us. The costs are negotiable. The whole world knows I have no shortage of money now. The data can also be shared by both parties. Zheng Fan smiled as he proposed the conditions. "Can we take a look at what your underground base looks like, and its scale?" Chief Engineer Liu stared at the equipment inside the large sphere for a while before asking. Just getting this equipment from the sphere to Mars was something they could only dream of. "I'm also powerless. The range displayed by the communication equipment is limited. If your Mars delivery can arrive, then there will be no problem. The main activities below are mining. The space is large, but the equipment is relatively few." Zheng Fan replied honestly. Our probe weighs a total of 5 tons, with the lander and rover at 2 tons. After deducting necessary fuel and equipment, the weight we can carry is limited. I wonder how heavy the items you're bringing are? Vice President Zhang asked. Zhang Fan held up 2 fingers and said, 2 kilograms, is that okay? What about your robots? Chief Engineer Liu asked curiously. A robot weighs at least several tens of kilograms. They had to reduce the weight of the rover to increase the number of robots. We only need the core materials and components. This base doesn't lack anything else. After all, it has collected so much space debris. Zhang Fan replied with a smile. Vice President Zhang decisively said, I agree. I think we can expand our cooperation more broadly, such as with the power systems of your spherical spacecraft, the propulsion systems, and this 3-dimensional communication method. All of this is unprecedented. No problem. We can provide you with the technical data. But I must remind you that the difficulty of constructing such power and propulsion systems on Earth is very high. This was one of the main reasons why Nuwa wanted to go to space. Zhang Fan readily agreed. Do you have any requirements? We will do our best to meet them. Vice President Zhang thought they would need to negotiate, but was surprised at how accommodating Zhang Fan was. I don't know how long it takes for your rockets to launch into low Earth orbit and what the effective payload is. Vice President Zhang and Chief Engineer Liu exchanged glances. Vice President Zhang replied, if it's just a single launch, it would take about a week, using Long March 2D, which can carry about 4 tons. If you need to launch multiple times, the minimum interval must be half a month. Although the Long 5 has great capacity, the schedule is too full, and the production is more complex, so the cycle cannot be compressed. One launch is enough. Transporting a batch of scarce materials to space can accelerate our exploration pace. Right now, we are busy planning the exploration of major celestial bodies in the solar system. And we can't pay attention to the vehicles returning to Earth for the time being. By the end of the year, it should be about ready. This information was overwhelming, leaving several people stunned, especially Liu and Zhang. We have been working for years on a Mars probe that is just about to launch. And you expect to send probes to several major planets within a year? It seems we also need to establish bases there. How will we manage in the future? Seeing their expressions, Zhang Fan could understand. It feels incredible, right? I felt the same way at first. These robotic scientists don't need food, drink, or rest. They have no distractions and work tirelessly around the clock, and you get used to it. After all, they are working for us humans. Chapter 205, Evolution. A week later, the Long March 2D rocket, loaded with 4 tons of supplies for the reptilian laboratory, was launched from Xichang, accurately delivering the space package into low Earth orbit. Of course, the local space military observed the entire launch and then watched as the space package gradually disappeared. However, this time, they noticed something unusual due to prior preparations. This square metal box didn't vanish into thin air. Instead, it disappeared gradually over a period of more than 200 seconds. By comparing data from several optical satellites in different directions, they discovered a slight distortion in a small spherical area near the box. The size of this area coincided perfectly with that of the reptilian spacecraft, confirming that it could indeed achieve stealth. The question is how they managed to achieve this dual stealth in both electromagnetic waves and optics, with almost no flaws. If this technology were applied to aircraft or missiles, the implications would be terrifying and unimaginable. After all, their pride, the Lightning fighter jet and the Ghost bomber, only achieve a certain degree of electromagnetic and infrared stealth at a high cost. This issue has become a significant concern for the local military, which has sought countless experts in related fields to study it. Yet there has been no substantial progress. The distance to the synchronous orbit is too far, and it remains hidden in low Earth orbit, with too little effective observation data. These experts can only make various speculations without any means to verify them. After receiving this supply, the debris in low Earth space began to disappear even faster. At this rate, it could be cleared away well before the end of the year. During the removal of debris, some functioning satellites or unidentified objects flying out of the atmosphere suddenly went missing. The owners of these satellites did not make any noise nor had any place to appeal, with only some records and files that may eventually be declassified proving their existence. Suddenly, the outer space around Earth became unusually harmonious, with all satellites behaving exceptionally well. As if a strict class monitor had arrived, transforming the scene from a bustling marketplace to a funeral parlor. In the first few days of late July, a certain country launched its first Mars probe, which carried 2 intelligent robots. This exploration mission aims not only to generate a panoramic map of Mars and conduct surface inspections through a soft landing, but also includes a return capsule that will achieve the first ever sample return from Mars. After the news was released, it faced skepticism from some foreign experts who argued that the probe's weight was insufficient for the return capsule to escape Mars gravity and return, questioning its fuel capacity. However, some speculated that the country might have mastered new technologies beyond existing chemical rocket propulsion that could enable the return capsule to perform sample collection and return. Such news quickly lost attention, as most people focused on local matters, with many not even knowing where Mars is or which country it pertains to. In September, after more than 6 months of clinical trials, a new capsule was officially approved for market release. At the same time, the fourth phase of clinical trials was set to begin for broader application research. Sue Kan, the chairman of Brainwave Medical, declared at the new drug launch conference that the capsule is not a conventional medication. It can only be effective when used in qualified hospitals alongside an intelligent diagnostic system. This represents a brand new treatment approach, heralding significant changes in the existing medical system. Many currently incurable diseases, including cancer, will be tackled one by one, and most surgical procedures will be replaced by the safer and more precise capsules. Brainwave Medical will introduce more convenient medical products in the future, ensuring that people anywhere in the world, regardless of wealth, can benefit from the health safeguards provided by their products. The capsules are priced at 20 yuan per pair and will be listed in the prescription drug catalog for cancer and cardiovascular diseases in 3,000 medical institutions nationwide, to be used under doctor's guidance. Current results indicate that most cancers require only 2 treatment cycles, with 1 capsule taken daily for a month to completely eliminate cancer cells from the body, with the total cost of auxiliary medications not exceeding 2,000 yuan. Cancer is expected to soon disappear from the list of terminal illnesses. In the future, as the intelligent medical system becomes more widespread, the prescription rights for the capsules will be further delegated to secondary and even primary hospitals and community clinics. Current clinical trial results show that the capsules can be effective for at least 50% of common diseases, due to varying new drug approval processes in different countries. The intelligent diagnostic program from Brainwave Medical has seen limited application abroad, and the capsules have only been launched in a few less developed countries. Consequently, many foreign cancer patients have come to the country for treatment, leading to a surge in inbound travelers, a situation that has caught many off guard. The sale date of this medication in another country remains uncertain, yet it has already severely impacted the stock prices of numerous pharmaceutical companies there. Initially declared as an anti-cancer drug, industry experts now recognize its broad prospects, which could disrupt the entire medical and pharmaceutical sector, rendering many drugs and treatment methods obsolete. With the new drugs market launch, work has increased, and Li Hong, the president of Brainwave Medical, has ended her nearly 3-month maternity leave and returned to her position. The poor little baby, Zhengyu, just 3 months old, has already started the weaning process. Fortunately, Zheng Fan, a full-time dad, is by her side. So Zhengyu does not rely much on her mother, who only appears occasionally. Instead, she cries loudly when she can't see her dad. To ensure that his daughter gets safe milk, Zheng Fan specifically instructed Wu Qi to develop a smart temperature-controlled bottle. This bottle, equipped with a miniature quantum chip and millions of nanobots, not only strictly tests the food going into the baby's mouth and automatically adjusts the liquid to the appropriate temperature, but also detects the surrounding air quality and monitors the baby's vital signs, featuring an automatic alarm function. After a few days of use, it proved to be quite effective, leading Fenghua Glass Company to add a new product to its lineup, the Smart Bottle. Lu Zhenqi indeed has a business mind. Feeling that the application range of the bottle is limited, he slightly altered its shape and functionality and launched a smart water cup, significantly broadening the market. Compared to high-end products like smart power-generating glass aimed at the decorative building materials market, the smart water cup is much more accessible to the general public. Reptile technology has always been low-key, but to some well-informed individuals, it is undoubtedly a hidden super boss-level enterprise. The small water cup, through the spread by these individuals, became a magical tool for disease prevention and protection against malicious intentions, suddenly gaining immense popularity overnight, causing all online stores to run out of stock within just a few days. Within less than a month of its launch, 500,000 units were sold, and the demand still exceeded supply. Lu Zhenqi had to urgently set up new production lines to expand production capacity, and the profit for 1 month matched what he had earned in the previous year. Of course, whether making 10 million or 100 million is truly inconsequential to Zheng Fan now. He has genuinely experienced the state that the teacher mentioned years ago. His daily focus revolves around his daughter, with the quantum chip and Wu Qi's reptile laboratory, as well as New Hua's space exploration plan, all pushed to the back burner. As for the brainwave technology that brought him immense wealth, he hasn't visited in a long time. Checking work emails has shifted from daily to weekly, and he often forgets, needing reminders from his secretary Zheng Fang. However, due to the need to get up at night to care for his daughter, his sleep has been fragmented, and he has started dreaming again. He has unexpectedly logged into a game he hadn't played in a long time several times. In the game, Prince Liu has grown to 18 years old. At 17, he was arranged by his parents, the Emperor and Empress, to marry a virtuous young lady from a prominent family, and she even gave birth to a daughter after 10 months of pregnancy. If that were all, it would be fine, but time in the game passes quickly, and as his daughter grows day by day, she increasingly resembles Zhang Yu, leaving him feeling somewhat at a loss. The operation of the game is automatically evolving. He has discussed it many times with a chum, who has set detailed backgrounds and rules. As for the NPC's thoughts, decisions, and actions, they result from interactions between different intelligent programs. With the game's progress driven by both players and numerous NPCs, generally without interference from a chum. Regarding the current situation, a chum deduces that Zhang Yu has inherited his genes, and her brain may be more special than that of an ordinary baby. During her playtime, she seems to have sensed the brainwaves between herself and the gaming device, participating in the game in a unique way. Whether this is a good thing or a bad thing is something she will have to judge for herself. Chapter 206. Three Kingdoms Kill. From that day on, Zhang Fan carefully observed his daughter's changes and noticed that her eyes indeed sparkled much more, and she became more lively and active. Having just learned to roll over and sit up, Zhang Yu quickly learned to crawl. At this time, with heating on and the underfloor heating keeping her warm, she was no longer at risk of getting cold. After finishing her meals each day, she would want to get down and crawl around on the floor. When she got tired, she would lie down and fall asleep, after which Zhang Fan would pick her up and place her in her dedicated crib. By the time Zhang Yu was 6 months old, she could sleep through the night without needing a midnight feeding, allowing Zhang Fan to establish a more regular sleep schedule and dream less frequently. At 6 o'clock in the morning, Zhang Fan would wake up on time, and the first thing he would do was turn to look at his daughter, who was lying between him and Li Hong. To his surprise, she was already awake, holding her bottle and sucking on it vigorously. The bottle had temperature control and anti-leak features, and Zhang Fan usually filled it up before bed and placed it beside her for convenience, also serving as an alarm of sorts. It was the first time she woke up without crying and drank on her own. When Zhang Yu saw Zhang Fan turn over, she let go of the bottle and waved at him, making sounds to greet him. Zhang Fan had taught her to call him daddy, and after she learned it, she would call out to everyone, which left him both amused and exasperated. After playing with her for a while, she finished her milk and fell asleep again. And according to her usual routine, she would sleep until 9. Zhang Fan got up and decided to resume his morning exercises that had been interrupted for more than 6 months. After washing up, he took Yuan out and jogged to the auto repair shop. The experimental building had already been topped off, and Feng Lanlan was leading a team in the renovation. With various new materials developed by Wu Qi and Nuhua, along with a large number of micro-robots assisting, the renovation efficiency was surprisingly high. Both the exterior and interior work were nearing completion, and soon Wu Qi would be able to move in. The building was named Reptile Tower, and the company logo featured a white sphere with a red Oracle Bone script character for insect in the center. Zhang Fan had asked Su Wen for help with the design. The largest mural at the entrance of their villa was also painted by Su Wen, along with other artworks by her and some of her less successful artist friends. The mural depicted the famous welcoming pine of Huangshan, and under Su Wen's brush. It indeed had a unique flavor, combining the essence of traditional Chinese painting with the realism of oil painting. Both Zhang Fan and his wife were very satisfied. After all, it was hung in their home, and as long as they felt comfortable looking at it, they didn't care about being called vulgar. In the small courtyard of the villa, Zhang Fan practiced with several robot security guards, and they had made significant progress over the year. Zhang Fan found it quite challenging to win against them. Seeing this scene, Yuan, who had been watching, eagerly requested to join in, and surprisingly managed to easily bring Zhang Fan down to the ground. Although her expression remained unreadable, Zhang Fan could still sense her inner pride. Let it be. Feeling good is always better than being downcast. Zhang Fan has already passed the competitive age of youth and no longer cares about daily wins and losses. After finishing his morning exercise and returning home, Li Hong was already up and washing up. Zhang Fan first went to check on his precious daughter, who was sleeping soundly, clearly still far from waking up. "Did you go out to exercise again today?" Li Hong asked casually as she came out of the bathroom, noticing him watching their daughter sleep. "Yes, I stopped for half a year and need to start again. I just went to the auto repair shop to take a look. That place has been vacant for over 6 months. Maybe we should move there someday." "Sounds good. Anyway, everything is new. We just need to move in. Let us set it for this weekend then. I'll arrange a gathering. Since the old house was small, it was hard to host. But now we need to make up for it." Li Hong's support for changing houses stemmed from the fact that several original shareholders from her company had been invited over a few times, and it was difficult to accommodate everyone in their current home, which had always been a concern for her. Zhang Fan didn't care much about these matters. After all, those people wouldn't mind missing a meal, and nowadays it's easy to get in touch, so there was no need to gather just for that. He was quite indifferent to such gatherings. They were all peers, and to avoid standing out too much, he had to go along each time. At the gatherings, Liu Yifan and Zhang Tsong, who had returned from overseas, loved to play Texas Hold'em, but unfortunately, others weren't very interested. Su Kan and Wu Zhun preferred games like Do Di Zhu and Jia Jinhua, while Zhang Fan and Shi Xian were indifferent and could go along with anything. The two professors, Gao Hua and Su Huiyun's husbands, didn't attend every time, but when they did, they formed two factions, one playing Do Di Zhu and the other Texas Hold'em. Since they didn't participate, Lu Yifan and his friend had to follow Su Kan's lead. Later, to unify the activities, they abandoned traditional card games and switched to the board game Three Kingdoms Kill, which surprisingly became a fixed item at every gathering. As for the women, their entertainment was unchanged, playing mahjong. With fewer people, they have one table, and with more, they set up two. As for the kids, except for Shi Xian and Wu Zhen's young children who occasionally joined, the others were either in high school or university or already working, showing little interest in attending the adults' boring gatherings. For this gathering, Li Hong prepared a lot of food, drinks, and activities, putting considerable effort into arranging the venue. She thought of everything to ensure that everyone had a great time. It was everyone's first visit to their new home. Zheng Fan held the child, while Li Hong led everyone on a tour of their house. The interior decoration was nothing special, a mainstream style without any unique features. But the most eye-catching was the layer of smart power-generating glass outside, which amazed everyone. They had only heard of this product before. This was the first time they saw it in person, especially Shi Xian, who was very interested and asked Zheng Fan many questions about its parameters, structure, and technology. When he heard that the power generation reached 500 watts per square meter, he found it hard to believe. Your roof and walls must be 2,000 or 3,000 square meters, right? The average power generation efficiency must be over 1,000 kilowatts. During the day, the output can reach over 3,000 kilowatts, but at night the temperature drops too low, making it almost impossible to generate electricity. The efficiency is highest in summer, and even at night, it can still produce more than 1,500 kilowatts. Zheng Fan replied. The ladies were uninterested in their conversation and went to the game room prepared by Li Hong to play mahjong, leaving the men to continue chatting in the living room on the second floor. So, your building can be completely self-sufficient in electricity? Shi Xian continued to ask. There are backup battery packs below, and we often have surplus. It can also supply the car repair shop to the south. Once the renovation of the crawling building is completed, they will use the second-generation products, which generate even more power. Zheng Fan explained. Why haven't we seen this good thing in use? I haven't heard any promotions about it. You've been researching this for half a year, right? Is the manufacturing too complicated? Or is the cost too high? Su Kan interjected. The main issue is that the glass factory I acquired has a production scale that is too small, and it can't meet the supply. But next year will be different. I've already secured authorization from several large enterprises, and by then, we can scale up for the market. Zheng Fan clarified. Don't just talk. Let's get organized. It's not easy to set up a game. Wu Zhen declared. Yuan, you can be the referee. He took out the complete set of tools for the game Three Kingdoms Kill and arranged everyone's positions. True to his gaming background, his enthusiasm for games never waned. After being caught in an awkward situation before, Wu Zhen reflected deeply and was eventually forgiven by his wife, but he felt down for quite a while, only gradually recovering after a few months. The game has been out for over 10 years, and those who enjoy it are truly passionate about it. It tests the brain's calculation abilities, and those who don't like it find it hard to get into the game. With various rules and numerous character skills, it can be quite complex, with different effects in different situations, and various judgments can leave one feeling dizzy. All 8 of them are considered high IQ players, so they can compete on equal footing in this game, with no one being significantly worse. That's why Wu Zhen was so excited. Playing with peers of similar skill levels is much more enjoyable, and there are rarely any basic mistakes. Even if they lose, the experience is still memorable. Unfortunately, such opportunities are rare. They need to have comparable skill levels and social standings, allowing them to play without any reservations. These opportunities to set up a game happen only a few times a year, so Wu Zhen cherishes every minute spent playing. Chapter 207. Growth. The game has been around for over 10 years, with various new characters and expansion packs constantly being released, making skills increasingly complex. They don't have enough time to familiarize themselves with each new character, so they always play the classic 8-player identity version with only the early basic characters and the wind, forest, fire, and mountain character pack. When skilled players face off, there's a lot of calculation involved. They won't blindly attack at the start, ensuring that you don't get eliminated right away. However, this also means that a game can drag on for 1 or 2 hours, leaving those who are eliminated early with nothing to do but watch. Zheng Fan had bad luck, being a rebel in the first 2 rounds and drawing weak cards, getting eliminated after just 2 or 3 rounds each time, and could only watch from the sidelines. His daughter, Zheng Yu, woke up and raised her arms to be held. He picked her up, and still groggy from sleep, she rested her head on his shoulder, rubbing her eyes with her little hands. After a while, she became clear-headed and developed an interest in the cards they were playing with, which she had never seen before. Leaning forward with effort, she reached out to grab the cards, and Zheng Fan handed her a few unused character cards to put in her small hands. Xingyu looked at the cards in her hands. The dark and rich painting style appeared gloomy and unappealing to her, and she couldn't understand it. She opened her mouth to taste them, but Zhang Fan was already prepared and quickly snatched the cards away from her hands. The little girl didn't cry. Instead, she turned to Zhang Fan and smiled, then leaned in to kiss his face, drooling all over him. At such a young age, she already knew how to act cute. No, you can't eat that. Zhang Fan shook his head seriously in refusal. Seeing that her cuteness wasn't working, the little girl showed her temper, turned around, and wanted to get down, no longer wanting to play with her stinky dad. After placing her on the ground, she immediately got on all fours to crawl again. Zhang Fan supported her upper body and taught her to walk. Her little legs were already strong enough to stand and walk, but she was used to crawling and would instinctively drop to all fours whenever she had the chance. Zhang Fan had been working on correcting this habit. They had just moved in 2 days ago, and everything felt new to Zhengyu. She took big strides forward, and Zhang Fan supported her for a while before quietly letting go, crouching down behind her to protect her. After walking confidently for a few more steps, the little girl sensed something was off. Why was no one supporting her? She turned around and saw Zhang Fan behind her. This sudden realization caused her to lose her balance, and she plopped down onto the ground. Raising her arms, she wanted Zhang Fan to pick her up, but this time her usual trick didn't work. Zhang Fan raised his hand to signal her to stand up by herself and refused to help. The little girl wasn't spoiled. When she didn't get help, she decided to do it herself. She turned over, crawled on the ground, and slowly pushed herself up with her hands and feet, trembling as she stood up. Zhang Fan clapped his hands and gestured for her to walk over. This time, the little girl lacked the previous brave spirit and carefully took one step at a time, finally returning to the familiar embrace. Zhang Fan lifted her high and gave her a kiss on the cheek as a reward, causing Zhengyu to giggle. Zhang Fan, come back, the game is starting, Wu Zhen shouted from behind. Got it. The gathering lasted until after 6 in the afternoon. They enjoyed a lavish lunch prepared by Li Hong, continued with their games in the afternoon, and had a simple dinner of dumplings before everyone said their goodbyes. From that day on, the family of 3 settled into their new home. With a larger house, Zhengyu had more space to move around. Having learned to walk, she was never idle when she wasn't sleeping, striding around with her little short legs, full of energy. Fortunately, aside from the stairs being somewhat dangerous for her, Zhang Fan made sure to child-proof other areas, softening corners and edges to prevent bumps and bruises. The curiosity of children is incredibly strong. The more they are forbidden, the more they want to try. To teach her a lesson, Zhang Fan threw a small bear toy down the stairs in front of her, but to his surprise, the little one didn't grasp his good intentions at all, and instead laughed uncontrollably, wanting to try rolling down herself, which gave him a cold sweat. Unable to explain clearly, Zhang Fan had no choice but to arrange a security robot at the stairway. Its sole task being to keep an eye on Zhengyu and prevent her from rolling down the stairs. There was no other option. Once this little one learned to walk, she became quite cunning, sneaking away whenever he wasn't paying attention. She had independently learned to play hide and seek and would lie down and fall asleep wherever she got tired, making it harder to find a hiding spot with so many rooms. With Wu Qi's laboratory available, Zhang Fan equipped his daughter's frequently worn bracelets, anklets, gold collar, shoes, and even buttons on her clothes with locators, allowing him to track her precise location at all times. An immediate alarm would trigger if she approached the stairs or any other dangerous areas. Despite these small troubles, his daughter brought him more laughter and joy, and watching her grow up healthy day by day filled Zhang Fan with immense satisfaction and happiness. Of course, aside from taking care of the child, he had not been idle over the past 6 months. Under his initiative, the new generation of robots had incorporated the latest technological advancements from the crawling laboratory, significantly enhancing the performance of their skin, batteries, and internal materials, making them sturdier and more durable while reducing costs. The production bases in Hu City and Chengdu were completed one after another, and by now, over 10 million robots had been produced across the 3 major bases. Of these, 2.5 million were exported from the Hu City base, while the rest were all used domestically. 2 million for household services, over 1 million for security and various enterprises, 5 million for government departments, and over 2 million for various other purposes, including research, streaming, and cooking, covering a wide range of applications. The second-generation robots had become so lifelike that someone had the bright idea to have them play baseball, where they surprisingly performed at a level higher than professional athletes, executing various intricate moves with ease, leaving their opponents dumbfounded. Soon, the video of this match became a hot topic online, racking up over 100 million views in a short time. Consequently, fans called for robots to be allowed to participate in football matches, claiming it was much more exciting than watching real people play. This alarmed the Football Association, which quickly introduced new regulations to strictly check the identities of players before matches, banning robots from participating. While they weren't allowed to compete, the talents of the robots couldn't go to waste. They could serve as practice partners or coaches. It was as if a spark of inspiration ignited suddenly. And many clubs began using robots as practice partners, not just in football, but in all sorts of competitive events. Smart individuals quickly realized that robots represented a significant business opportunity. They could perform nearly all tasks humans could do, often better. If anyone could discover a specialized robot, they would hit the jackpot. Roles like streaming or cooking were just the beginning. Finding other rare talents could lead to a life of leisure, letting robots earn money for them or transferring their hiring rights for a substantial profit. Even the most ordinary robots had factories willing to pay over $10,000 a month for their services, proving to be much more reliable than humans for the same work, being diligent and capable of long-term overtime. Jobs with a monthly salary of $3,000 for humans were hard to come by, while robots at $10,000 a month were still in demand due to their scarcity, with higher-paying positions always waiting for them. As a result, robots have significantly replaced human jobs over the past year without causing major upheaval. Instead, they have alleviated some negative impacts brought by artificial intelligence, which was unexpected for Zheng Fan and many experts. The Brainwave Robotics Company is currently constructing several new production bases, and the government plans to introduce employment schemes that waive deposit fees and commissions, treating low-income groups, disabled individuals who have lost their ability to work, and elderly rural populations as a basic welfare measure. Although the deposit has been reduced to $50,000, it remains a significant burden for these individuals. Waiving their employment costs requires no actual government expenditure. A policy change would suffice. After all, legislation states that brainwave robots can only earn commissions for 5 years, and extending this period by just 6 months could offset their losses, so why not do it? More importantly, this welfare measure is more effective and sustainable than direct cash handouts. Direct payments are quickly spent, while robots represent productivity that can continuously generate wealth. Chapter 208. Immigration spaceship Creeper Technology Company has rapidly transformed from an obscure small firm into a star enterprise in the tech field. Under Wu Qi's leadership, the Creeper Laboratory has developed and registered thousands of technology patents and has gathered over 2,000 robots dedicated to various research endeavors. Naturally, their employment costs are not comparable to ordinary robots. Zheng Fan pays over $2 billion in commissions annually, nearly 10 times more than standard robots, and the wealth they create is immeasurable. Excluding the territory and resources controlled by Nuwa in space, the patents registered by Wu Qi alone are valued at hundreds of billions. Just the production equipment for the Lark capsule, the monitoring projectors, and the 1 yuan licensing fee per capsule have already generated a net profit of over 10 billion within a few months of being launched. Su Lu, who seized the opportunity, not only paid off all debts, but also became a true billionaire within months. Wang Dandan gained fame by supporting Qianzhong Lark Pharmaceutical, achieving a significant promotion ahead of schedule and becoming the key decision-maker in the county. The annual output value of this enterprise is equivalent to several years of the previous economic performance of this impoverished county. Although it hasn't resolved many employment issues, the tax revenue generated is substantial. When Wu Qi planned the Creeper building, Zheng Fan was initially concerned about its necessity, thinking it was a bit ambitious. However, upon moving in, it quickly became insufficient. The Tangshan Fenghua Glass Factory has designed a larger research center, which has already been approved and is currently under construction. The Tianji building has not been vacated, and the 7th floor of the Creeper building is fully occupied. Chunfei's administrative headquarters can only continue operating in the International Trade Center, as there is no space available for them here. Not only is there no office space for them, but even Zheng Fan, as the owner, finds that every room in the building is allocated for a purpose, clearly arranged by Wu Qi. Fortunately, the entrance of the building has been designated as a lobby for technical demonstrations and to receive visitors like Zheng Fan. Of course, the boss can go in for a visit. He can go anywhere, as long as strict disinfection and dust removal procedures are followed. After a demonstration of the entire process, he lost interest in visiting further and decided to learn from outside instead, since he wouldn't understand much inside anyway. Many of the devices here are self-designed or modified from purchase models, suitable only for robotic use. The input and output sections that are impractical for them have been eliminated, saving space and costs, while also preventing leaks of sensitive information. The entrance hall measures 10 meters in length and width, and has a height of 10 meters, creating a cubic space. Aside from 4 hidden doors, it is completely empty, with no visible lights, switches, cameras, or biometric devices. The walls, floor, and ceiling are made of a patterned material resembling black basalt, which feels like glass to the touch. Despite the absence of lights and windows, there is no sense of darkness here at all. As soon as Zheng Yu entered the hall, she was captivated by the strange walls. She leaned out from Zheng Fan's embrace to touch them, prompting Zheng Fan to follow her to the wall. Boo-boo. Zheng Yu pointed at the wall and exclaimed, "This isn't glass, it's a special material." Zheng Fan patiently explained, not worrying about whether his daughter could understand. However, Zheng Yu seemed to grasp his words, turning to continue exploring the wall, even pressing her eyes close to inspect it, as if she could truly comprehend something. Boo boo. She continued to call out to Zheng Fan while pointing at the wall. Zheng Fan helplessly replied, "This is not glass. You're wrong, it is indeed glass. It's the same material as the one outside your house." At that moment, a section of the wall on the left side of the hall opened automatically. And Wu Qi entered wearing that familiar lab coat, as usual, showing no respect for the boss. Zheng Yu stared at this unfamiliar ant for a while before suddenly extending her arms. Hug. Typically shy, she would usually shout when strangers try to hug her. But this was the first time she actively sought closeness with someone unfamiliar. Wu Qi was somewhat flustered by Zheng Yu's sudden gesture. And Zheng Fan had never seen the chief scientist look this way before. He placed his daughter in her arms, saying, "My daughter rarely shows affection to others. You can hold her for a bit." In Wu Qi's embrace, Zheng Yu was completely at ease, wrapping her arms around her neck and giving her a kiss, which in the little girl's understanding was a sign of friendliness. Wu Qi, with her latest skin technology, looked no different from an average person in terms of color or texture. In fact, she appeared better than most. Only Zheng Yu's baby-like skin could surpass hers. After exchanging smiles for a few seconds, the two burst into laughter. Wu Qi gently bumped her forehead against Zheng Yu's, eliciting a fit of giggles from the little girl. After playing for a while, Wu Qi reluctantly returned the child to Zheng Fan and got down to business. The Nua's Reptoid No. 1 probe has returned from Venus and is currently being serviced on the moon. Our lunar number 1 is also ready and can land at any time. You need to find us a sufficiently large landing site. The lighting in the entire hall began to change. And soon they felt as if they were in a massive underground mining facility on the moon, standing atop a square steel building. In the center of the rooftop was the small ball of the first crawler, which was just over 4 meters in diameter, built by Nuwa. In the distance, a row of more than a dozen similar buildings was under construction. A polygonal door opened on the side of the small ball, and Nuwa walked out. Standing in front of them, what you are standing on is Lunar 1. It requires a land area of more than 150 meters square. Due to the internal anti-gravity device, a huge magnetic field will be generated, so it is essential to ensure a no-fly zone of 100 kilometers around it. Zheng Fan had mentally prepared for such a scene, yet he was still profoundly shocked. This exceptionally spacious underground area made the towering steel structure beneath them seem tiny. His daughter, Zheng Yu, was oblivious to all this. To her, the scene looked like fun, and she stretched her arms, eager to get down and run. "Are you planning to land this steel building on Earth?" Zheng Fan did not let his daughter down. These two women were bolder than he had imagined. He had always thought that Nuwa would pilot a large ball down, but he never expected such a massive iron object. "Our current technology is still immature. This is the most efficient transportation method we can achieve at the moment. It can carry a large amount of essential supplies and transport humans for migration within the solar system." Wu Qi replied. Zheng Fan sighed inwardly, feeling inadequate. He had not thought that far ahead. These two had already built their spacecraft. No wonder they hadn't made any demands over the past year. They were holding back a big surprise. How heavy is this spacecraft? It won't go out of control, will it? If such a large iron object falls freely, it would be comparable to an asteroid hitting the Earth. Its weight is 1.28 million tons and can carry 1 million tons of supplies. However, we currently do not have that much. We have only collected 150,000 tons of scarce materials from Earth. Its speed will not be very high. Even if it goes out of control, the impact won't be too significant. Even if the anti-gravity device fails, we can still control the landing site to avoid hitting anyone. Nuwa explained seriously. "You must have ideal landing sites, right? Let us discuss them so we can make preparations to raise demands with the authorities." Robur, Chongtang, or Kekexili. Wu Qi finished speaking and displayed the three-dimensional topographic maps of these locations in the air, analyzing the pros and cons of each place. The meeting lasted for 3 hours, and by the end, Zheng Fan's daughter had already fallen asleep in his arms for 2 hours. Chapter 209. Lunar 1 Robur is located at the lowest point in the eastern part of the Darim Basin, also on the eastern edge of the Karamay Desert, at an altitude of about 800 meters. It is in the southeastern part of Xinjiang, bordering Gansu Province, and is a largely dried-up inland lake. Not far to the northwest of the lake is the famous ruins of the ancient city of Lulan. Rivers such as the Darim River, Peacock River, Chedaken River, and Shul River once converged here. If it had not dried up, it would be the second largest saltwater lake in the country, only after Qinghai Lake. It is well known to the public because the first atomic bomb was detonated here, which entered textbooks and is remembered by everyone. This area is also one of the 4 famous uninhabited zones in the country, known as the Sea of Death. It is arid and water scarce, with complex terrain and harsh environmental conditions, frequent sandstorms, and extremely low survival conditions, making it a popular destination for adventurers who enjoy challenges. The most common route to drive to this region is from a certain city heading west through a geological formation, crossing 300 kilometers of desert to reach a town, and then continuing west to another city or heading north to a third city. Adults, like children, often feel a strong desire to visit places they are told not to go. This area, once claimed to be uninhabited, is now bustling with people and market-like activity, with various self-driving teams coming and going. Towards the end of 2020, all roads leading to this region were taken over by the military, and no vehicles were allowed to enter. At the same time, all communication devices in the area received emergency notification messages from the service providers, instructing all personnel and vehicles to evacuate immediately. Those who did not evacuate within 3 days would be arrested for allegedly probing into state secrets. To ensure everyone received the information, the military dispatched transport aircraft equipped with communication stations to broadcast in the area, followed by a squadron of helicopters conducting search operations 2 days later. The citizens demonstrated a strong sense of lawfulness, promptly evacuating, and after repeated inspections 3 days later, the military reported that the area had been completely cleared of personnel. Such a significant operation immediately sparked considerable online discussion and international attention, with various parties speculating about the reasons behind it. A military expert from a certain country speculated that the nation might conduct a nuclear weapons safety storage test. Although this prediction did not align with the nation's usual practices, it lacked a better explanation and gained substantial support. Some experts predicted it could be a landing site for spacecraft, suggesting the nation might launch a new type of spacecraft. Soon, all speculation faded as the true purpose became clear. A square steel structure with a side length of 100 meters rose from near the lunar south pole, orbiting the moon before adjusting its trajectory to enter an elliptical transfer orbit towards Earth at high speed. This was announced in a press release by a certain space administration, accompanied by an imposing photograph of a dark, cube-like spacecraft. The nation's officials quickly confirmed this news, stating that a lunar immigration spaceship, built by a domestic technology company, would enter near-Earth orbit within 24 hours, orbit the Earth 3 times to slow down, and then land at a base in the western region. Due to the spacecraft's strong magnetic field, a safety distance of over 200 kilometers was required for satellites, spacecraft, aircraft, vehicles, and personnel along the route. Upon receiving the news, reactions ranged from disbelief to ridicule. Is today April Fool's Day? We have trouble launching a satellite, and you're already pulling cargo back from the moon? The leader, who had already conceded defeat and was waiting for a transition of power, urgently summoned the newly appointed commander of the Space Forces and the head of the Space Administration to inquire about the situation. What is going on? This isn't a joke, is it? Have they built a spacecraft larger than the White House on the moon? Tell me this is real. The blonde commander paced back and forth in front of the two, questioning loudly. Yes, our dozens of observation stations and several satellites have confirmed the same result. Their decelerating flight will soon pass right above us. The commander of the Space Forces, who was feeling helpless, remarked. They are not hiding their movements tonight. This massive spacecraft can be seen with the naked eye. The director of the space agency added. Oh my God, is there any way to shoot it down? Seeing the looks on the faces of the two, the blonde commander realized he had misspoken again and waved his hand, signaling them to leave. It's infuriating. I haven't even stepped down yet, and these guys act as if I don't matter anymore, all rushing to flatter the newly elected Tom. The blonde commander thought resentfully. In last month's election, Tom, the candidate from the lottery party, won with a staggering 70 of the votes, leaving the blonde commander with no excuses to cling to. He hasn't even left yet, and the tea is already getting cold. No one cared about the blonde commander's troubles. Zhang Fan certainly wouldn't think about these things, even though he could be considered one of the culprits. He was currently hosting an unexpected guest at home, his long-lost acquaintance Sun Wei, who had come to visit. They hadn't seen each other for nearly 2 years, and this old man had been promoted 1 rank, now holding the rank of lieutenant general. Without any prior notice, the car arrived at the door, and it was only when Ho Chung called him that he realized Zhang Fan had come downstairs to greet him, and Sun Wei was already standing at his door. Welcome, General Sun. Please come in. I heard you can directly see the 3-dimensional projection of the spacecraft here. I can't wait to get a glimpse. Sun Wei got straight to the point. To facilitate the 3-dimensional projection, Zhang Fan had specially built a communication room. Although the experience was not as good as that in the Wuqi Laboratories Hall, it was sufficient for communication. The communication room was located on the 3rd floor, with direct elevator access. He invited them in and had them sit on the sofa, gesturing for Yuan Yuan to start. Light shot from several directions, converging on the empty space in front of the sofa, forming a cubic model of Lunar Module 1, with the moon on the right, the Earth on the left, and countless satellites orbiting around the Earth, their positions slowly changing. It will enter low Earth orbit around 9 p.m. tonight, and start descending around midnight. The first phase of the anti-gravity landing will be slower, estimated to take 5 or 6 hours. Zhang Fan explained. Wasn't it said that it would only orbit the Earth 3 times? Isn't that very slow? Sunway asked curiously. During the deceleration phase outside the atmosphere, it will orbit the Earth 3 times, and then upon entering the atmosphere, the descent speed will be controlled, gradually dropping from over 100 kilometers. This is also to collect data and test the maximum output power and duration of our fusion reactor. So it will land completely by the time it's dawn tomorrow? Ho Chung, who had been silent, asked. Yes, it will also need to cool down and clean the surrounding environment, if everything goes smoothly. The earliest we can enter would be the day after tomorrow, so there's no need to go over too early. At night, most people on Earth witnessed an unprecedented spectacle, a gigantic black square object, larger than the moon, gliding across the night sky. It emitted massive ion streams that cast strange light, and through extensive media coverage, people learned its name, Lunar 1. Chapter 2:10. Panic. Even more incredible than the sudden appearance of this spacecraft is that it was entirely designed, built, and operated by robots, suggesting a vast conspiracy behind it. The limited number of brainwave robots mainly serve the wealthy, with ordinary citizens rarely encountering them and little news coverage available. The sudden arrival of Lunar 1, under the guidance of certain media, generated widespread social panic. While earlier debates about the threats of artificial intelligence were mostly confined to academic discussions among experts, this time the panic caused by robots genuinely affected every ordinary person. Some media outlets resorted to sensational headlines to grab attention, claiming things like, robots are about to rule the Earth. Some humans may be exiled to Mars. The useless population will vanish in the future. The era of mass extinction has arrived. In contrast, domestic media mostly focused on positive reports, as many people had a basic understanding of robots, especially those with significant influence in the media who were surrounded by robots. They dismissed the panic with a laugh, reminiscent of the initial reactions when photography technology first arrived in China over a century ago. This time, however, the ignorant were the ordinary citizens of developed nations. India, not considered a developed country, surprisingly echoed the media sentiment of developed nations, promoting fear narratives, and the terrified public experienced even greater panic than their counterparts in developed countries. At midnight, this enormous square object inexplicably halted in the eastern sky, remaining motionless. Anyone who looked up could see it, but fortunately, as it was late at night, not many witnessed it, sparing the world from further chaos. Lunar 1 began its slow descent from a hovering state over the equator of the Indian Ocean, passing over Bengal and the Qinghai Tibet Plateau. After 5 hours, it descended to an altitude of 20,000 meters, reaching the airspace above Lop Nur. With its anti-gravity device gradually adjusting, this massive entity descended at a steady speed of 5 meters per second. Many military and civilian personnel near Lop Nur stayed awake all night, witnessing the enormous object approach from the southern sky, gradually enlarging and slowly descending until it disappeared below the horizon. Zheng Fan also remained awake at home, monitoring the situation in the communication room. It wasn't that he didn't want to sleep, but since Sun Wei and Ho Chung arrived the previous afternoon, they hadn't left the communication room. The old man showed no restraint or formality befitting his high position. Instead, he displayed a relentless spirit to get to the bottom of things. Here, they could not only observe Lunar 1 and its companion, Reptoid 1, but also the 7 spherical probes, Reptoid 2 to 8, each with a diameter of 20 meters. No, 2 is located at the lunar base, number 3 is in geostationary orbit, number 4 is in low Earth orbit, number 5 is at the Venus base, no. 6 is at the Mars base, number 7 has just entered orbit around Mercury, and number 8 is on its way to Jupiter. Although these probes have a similar internal structure, their locations differ significantly. Aside from the 2 on Earth, any of the others are currently places beyond human reach. The space robots and countless nanobots inside can settle anywhere, utilizing their powerful mining capabilities to quickly replicate a spacecraft like Lunar 1. Each of these probes can lead to endless discussions, from the stealth technology of the reptile probe to the abundant helium-3 resources on the moon, the rich carbon dioxide and sulfuric rain in Venus's atmosphere, the high iron content of up to 60% on Mercury, and the feasibility of Mars colonization. Surprisingly, the old man seems to know quite a bit about these less common topics, indicating he has done considerable research, and he finds common ground with Zheng Fan. While Ho Chung has long since been overwhelmed and has dozed off on the sofa, the old man remains energetic after a whole night of conversation, showing no signs of fatigue, until he receives a call with photos of Lunar 1 landing taken by a drone, which wakes the peacefully sleeping Ho Chung. After seeing the 2 unexpected guests off, Zheng Fan quickly freshens up and returns to the bedroom, where he finds his daughter sleeping soundly on the carpet in a sprawled position. He gently picks her up and places her in the middle of the bed. She must have woken up, had her milk, played for a while, and then fallen asleep on the floor. The 2, one on the bed and the other on the floor, do not disturb each other, Fortunately, the little girl cannot open the door, or she might wander into another room. Zhang Fan lies down next to his daughter and closes his eyes, ready to catch up on some sleep. Suddenly, he feels something brushing against his face. He swats at it and tries to go back to sleep, but it comes back again. This time, he reaches out and grabs a chubby little hand. Opening his eyes to see his daughter leaning over, giggling as she sees him wake up. Checking the time, it's already past 1 in the afternoon. And the little girl seems to have woken up for the second time. Yeah, are you hungry? What do you want to eat? Zhang Fan feels his stomach growling. After staying up all night without breakfast, he is ravenous. Meat. The little girl exclaims excitedly. With the release of the drone-captured photos of Lunar One's landing, domestic and international media hype reaches a new peak. People in several Western countries take to the streets to protest against robots taking human jobs, oppose Lunar One's landing, and resist the colonization of other planets. In response, the government announces the formation of a Lunar Joint Scientific Exploration Team, inviting 100 international experts to board Lunar One in a month for a week-long scientific investigation on the moon. This investigation is completely free. Participants only need to sign a waiver, verify their identity, and meet health requirements to enroll, with each person allowed to collect up to 100 kilograms of ore and soil to bring back to Earth. Subsequently, Chun Fei, as the president of Crawling Technology, held a press conference announcing the official establishment of the Interstellar Crawling Travel Agency. The first lunar travel group began recruiting, limited to 200 participants, with a half-price fee of $50,000 per person, and the initial batch was restricted to domestic tourists. The announcement immediately caused a greater sensation. A regular flight directly to the moon was about to be launched. Were humans about to enter the interstellar age? Meanwhile, protests continued. But the number of applicants surged to full capacity within a day. There were only 300 spots available for scientists and casual tourists combined. Yet the number of applicants exceeded 10,000. 3 days later, the selected scientists and initial tourists would officially gather at the Yanjing Astronaut Training Center for short-term training and preparation for the first lunar journey. At this time, Zhang Fan had already said goodbye to his daughter. Accompanied by Yuan, he arrived in Dunhuang on a special plane with Wu Qi, Feng Lanlan, and a large group of selected robots. There, along with Sun Wei, Ho Cheng, and many domestic scientists waiting for them, they boarded military off-road vehicles heading west to visit the true form of Lunar Base 1. Zhang Fan was pulled into a vehicle by Ho Cheng, where beside Sun Wei, there was a familiar face, the commander of the Red Army unit, Zhu Luzhong, who participated in the previous drill. Haha, Expert Zheng, long time no see. I didn't expect you to send satellites to the moon. Commander Zhu greeted him loudly upon meeting. Hello, Commander Zhu, congratulations on your promotion. What brings you here? Seeing Zhang Fan's puzzled expression, Commander Zhu introduced himself. I'm now responsible for guarding this area, so I need to check out what I'm guarding. Sun Wei chimed in with a smile. Little Zheng, you can't call him Commander Zhu anymore. Now it's Commander Zhu. In front of Sun Wei, the usually talkative Ho Cheng was surprisingly quiet, behaving like a schoolboy, which amused Zhang Fan. This was truly a case of the mighty being subdued. The military vehicles did not use autopilot. They were driven by designated personnel, bumping and shaking as they moved forward. Chapter 211. Visit. A convoy of more than 100 military off-road vehicles formed a long line, raising dust as they advanced powerfully. From more than 10 kilometers away, many people in the vehicles caught sight of the square steel fortress. As the vehicles approached, the sense of pressure grew stronger. Unlike the famous Bird's Nest or Daxing Airport with their steel structures, this building appeared to be hollowed out from solid steel, giving an incredibly simple and heavy feeling. As their convoy drew near, a nearly 10-meter-high gap opened in the central eastern position of the building, gradually widening with a rumbling sound, forming an open doorway. The entire building was sunk about a meter into the ground, leaving the first floor 50 centimeters above ground level. Once the door opened, a steel plate 10 centimeters thick, matching the width of the doorway, slowly extended outwards, landing 10 meters later to form a long slope. At this moment, the first vehicle of the convoy arrived, smoothly driving up the slope. The entire convoy entered and parked, occupying only a small portion of the first floor's area. The entire area of nearly 10,000 square meters on one floor is a perfectly square space with a height of over 10 meters. Apart from their convoy, there are only a few 1-meter square metal boxes neatly stacked to a height of 5 levels along the edges. This space can comfortably accommodate 200 tanks. Commander Zhu exclaimed as he stepped out of the vehicle. What's the point of sending so many tanks to the moon? They were just a pile of scrap metal back then. Sun Wei scoffed. Old leader, I was just making a comparison. As they entered, Zhang Fan remarked. I noticed the thickness of the outer wall is about 2 meters. Is it solid steel? It's about 70% iron, with other elements mixed in. The structure is also different from ordinary steel, providing higher strength and a wider temperature tolerance. While they were talking, a square platform of over 100 square meters descended from above, positioned against the wall on the west side of the main entrance. They all stood on it without feeling crowded as it slowly ascended, and the entrance on the first floor gradually closed. Once the platform stopped, they faced a long corridor, where Wuqi left 10 robots to guide them on a tour. She and the remaining robots took an elevator to continue upward, where their laboratory was located. The people brought this time would all follow to the lunar base. Zheng Fan walked along with the group, visiting the corridor, which ended in a massive space of 25 meters square, at the center of which was the power core of Lunar 1, a 15-meter-tall nuclear fusion reactor. What is the output power of this reactor? An elderly scientist with white hair inquired. During the landing 2 days ago, the peak output power was 25 million kilowatts. In a few days, we will conduct a launch experiment, and the output power may double. A robot accompanying them replied. That's stronger than the total output of over 30 generator units at the Three Gorges. It's hard to believe this was built in just a year. It's a miracle. Even with all the technology, it would take decades to achieve. Relying on humanity alone, it would take hundreds of years. This is the result of nanorobots, heralding a new era of transformation. The scientists began to disperse for further exploration. Zheng Fan, Ho Cheng, and several military officers, including Sun Wei and Commander Zhu, walked together. There were upward staircases on both sides of the reactor, as well as fully transparent observation elevators. Is this big guy all controlled by that little robot girl? Sun Wei asked Zheng Fan while standing in the elevator. She asked the captain, responsible for planning the route and issuing commands. The actual piloting relies on 3,000 space robots, which command trillions of nanorobots for execution. Is it all through that quantum chip you mentioned? Yes, the first generation isn't quite perfect yet. This is one of our recent focuses. Do you need help? We can open up all the technology in this area and provide products, but I'm not too hopeful about external assistance. Zheng Fan also had moments of arrogance. Although the ideal perfect quantum computing system had not yet been established, continuous research and improvement over the past year had deepened his understanding, and he believed that day was not far off. The completely transparent sightseeing elevator had reached the top and stopped. They stepped out of the elevator into a corridor facing the central reactor hall, with fully enclosed glass barriers near the edges. Ho Cheng tapped the thick glass barrier with his index finger and said with a smile, "You have quite strict precautions here." Indeed, the precautions are strict. But this layer of glass barrier is not primarily for security, it's mainly for protection. When operating at full power, the temperature here can reach over 200 degrees. This layer of glass provides insulation and can also recover some energy. As they walked down the corridor, the usually quiet Commander Zhu asked, "How many people can your spaceship take to the moon at most?" For a short trip, if enough food and water are provided, it can accommodate 5,000 people without any issues. However, for long-term sustainability, the life support system here can only ensure the normal living conditions of 2,000 people. As for how long it can last, that depends on the destination. Zheng Fan explained. The water and oxygen recycling system is relatively easy to solve, but the main issue is that humans need to intake sufficient nutrients. It must be self-sufficient. After all, the space here is limited, and the production systems for vegetables, grains, and meat cannot be too large. 2,000 people is the most reasonable scale, assuming complete reliance on supplies from the spaceship. They took another elevator to the rooftop of the building. The entire rooftop had changed significantly since a few days ago when they were on the moon. The small ball of the crawler number 1 was gone, and the rooftop was flat, except for the elevator that brought them up. After they exited, the elevator automatically returned, and it was still flat. The entire rooftop was covered by a huge glass dome, and some other people were already standing on it. The glass dome was a standard semicircle, with a diameter equal to the diagonal of the building's top, causing several edges of the building to protrude. The ground beneath them was made of transparent glass, allowing a direct view of the ground below. Standing here, Zheng Fan could imagine how wonderful the experience of weightlessness would be once the spaceship reached space. Whereas that little robot girl scientist of yours, are you still keeping her a secret? Sun Wei asked as he pressed his right hand against the curved glass beneath him. That's not the case. Niwa left on the crawler number 1 over the Indian Ocean and went to explore the seabed. Their plans are tightly scheduled, and this kind of social engagement is left to me. To them, it's a waste of time. Haha, you two have quite similar personalities. Sun Wei laughed heartily. What is she going to do at the seabed? You've already been to other planets. What is there to see underwater? Ho Cheng asked, puzzled. She is looking for some high-temperature and high-pressure biological samples to take to Venus to modify the environment there. If it works effectively, the conditions for colonization on Venus would be better than on Mars. There is a thick atmosphere there, and it's closer to Earth. You're planning quite far ahead. You haven't even started on the moon, and now you're preparing for Venus. Commander Zhu exclaimed. The evolution of an entire planetary environment takes millions or even billions of years. Currently, among the several available locations in the solar system, such as Venus, Mars, Europa, and Titan, humans would only be able to survive in such a glass dome if they went there. Our technology is still a long way from terraforming planets. Zheng Fan was not so optimistic. The current situation only allowed for short-term tourism and scientists conducting field investigations. Instead of worrying about being replaced by robots, humanity would be better off channeling that energy into exploring the universe. What is the point in fighting among ourselves? Chapter 212. Launch test after the visitors left. Zheng Fan did not return immediately. He still needed to oversee the supplies for Lunar 1. The vast uninhabited area of the Lop Nur was designated for their operations and would serve as a supply base for interstellar travel. Wu Qi was currently planning the design, while Feng Lanlan and her team were responsible for implementation. The interior of Lunar 1 would also need some renovations to accommodate future tourists. First, several large warehouses needed to be constructed to unload the supplies brought over by Lunar 1, and future supply materials could be prepared in advance. Additionally, roads leading outside needed to be built. What initially seemed straightforward turned out to be complicated. This was not his area of expertise. Remembering the capabilities of the auto repair shop, he thought it would be a waste of talent to have someone manage it, so he decided to bring that person over. He felt it was better suited for him to be a hands-off manager. The construction efficiency of the robots was remarkable. In just 3 days, 5 warehouses covering 100,000 square meters had been completed, and half of the 2 high-grade roads leading to the outside had been constructed, continuously extending outward. Over 2,000 watchtowers, each several dozen meters high, were being built around the perimeter of the area to prevent unauthorized entry by personnel or vehicles. Some visitors stayed behind after their tour to continue exploring, and Zheng Fan had Yuan Yuan assist them in arranging accommodations inside Lunar 1. Commander Zhu and several of his officer subordinates also remained. Over the past few days, they had watched over 1,000 peculiar robots construct several large warehouses without any visible equipment in operation. The ground was gradually being leveled and raised. The walls of the warehouses were slowly increasing in height, and the roof framework was being built from thin to thick, gradually sealing off the top. The ground leading outside was also being leveled and hardening little by little, without any equipment or building materials in sight, as if a magical path was extending outward. I think I understand how your spacecraft was built. It's simply incredible, like magic. Is this all done with local materials? Commander Zhu exclaimed to Zheng Fan. While these buildings and roads could utilize local materials, the supply of food and daily necessities would require strong assistance from Commander Zhu. Zheng Fan replied with a smile. Don't worry, the materials and convoy are already prepared. Once the roads are open, we can transport everything in immediately. These robots aren't weak in combat, are they? Commander Zhu asked quietly. They were designed for production and construction, so they lack the ability to attack humans. Their combat skills are average. But mining and construction are their strengths. Whatever is built can just as easily be dismantled. That skill is already quite abnormal. It can make enemy weapons and equipment disappear into thin air. If we were to airdrop a few hundred of them behind enemy lines, what kind of scene would that create? It would be more terrifying than dropping a few bombs. Even nuclear weapons might not have such a deterrent effect. Commander Zhu, being a military man, could always think of ways to apply things in combat. In response, although Zheng Fan was somewhat unconvinced, he couldn't oppose it because Commander Zhu was indeed correct, leaving him speechless and smiling. If they knew that these space robots could not only fly but also have a degree of stealth, allowing for remote control of these invisible nanobots, their imaginations would surely run wild. With these nanobots, no one could approach him silently anymore. Once the warehouse was completed, 150,000 tons of supplies transported by the lunar craft were unloaded and stored. Subsequently, all personnel evacuated, and Wu Qi personally commanded the lunar craft to conduct the first anti-gravity launch test on Earth. This test took place during the day, with Zheng Fan and Commander Zhu watching the live broadcast from a base near Dunhuang, which featured both camera footage and 3D projections. The entire square-shaped spacecraft vibrated slightly for 10 minutes before slowly lifting off. Unlike the gradual acceleration of a rocket, the lunar craft only accelerated briefly at the start and then ascended at a constant speed, which was several times faster than its descent the previous day. After more than an hour, it had become a dark spot on the horizon. After reaching a certain altitude, under the influence of Earth's centrifugal force, the lunar craft began to move quickly eastward while continuing to gain altitude. 2 hours later, it had entered a low Earth orbit over 300 kilometers high. The enormous size of the lunar craft allowed it to be seen directly by the naked eye in many areas without the need for telescopes. With 2 public tests, one for ascent and one for descent, the Reptile Technology Company demonstrated its strength, silencing the doubters. The booking lines for the Interstellar Reptile Travel Agency were overwhelmed, and Shen Fei complained to Zheng Fan, the hands-off boss, about being too busy and needing to hire more staff, but he had no good solutions. After circling in low Earth orbit for several hours, before nightfall, the lunar craft conducted another landing test, this time at a much faster speed. from hovering to landing. It took less than an hour, with only a few millimeters of deviation from the previous landing spot, which was quite precise for such a large vehicle. Compared to the costs Zheng Fan had planned for lunar travel, the lunar craft's actual capabilities in the space launch market were impressive. This massive vehicle could carry hundreds of thousands of tons of supplies into space, making the hundreds of billions spent on space stations seem like toys in comparison. The biggest impact was on several major private space companies in a certain region, especially Musk, whose assets had just surpassed Bezos to become the 9th richest person in the world. The stock prices of his companies, Blue Origin and SpaceX, have been plummeting for several days. Although these shares were not a major part of their wealth, they still led to a significant decrease in their fortunes, and they were on the verge of dropping out of the top 10 on the billionaire list. The day after the launch test, Vice President Zhang of the Aerospace Group flew directly to Dunhuang with several people to find Zheng Fan. Mr. Zheng, you're about to jeopardize the livelihoods of over 100,000 people in our group. Vice President Zhang complained as soon as they met. They met in a luxurious suite of a 5-star hotel, which was a temporary residence for him. This so-called wealthy individual was used to being alone. And apart from his assistant and bodyguard, Yuan, there was no display of extravagance. This suite was the only thing that made him look like a rich person. Mr. Zhang, that's an exaggeration. The Aerospace Group is filled with talented individuals, all of whom are valuable assets to the nation. How could they possibly be without jobs? The future should indeed hold broader horizons. Zheng Fan smiled as he diffused the situation. Then can we cooperate? We've always been cooperating, haven't we? For me, earning more money doesn't hold much significance anymore. What I pursue now is to gather more strength to explore the universe and expand the living space for all humanity. Isn't that your strong suit? It's exactly what we need. Space stations, lunar development, Martian exploration, etc. You provide the creative ideas, and we handle the technical implementation. Sharing the benefits. Zheng Fan proposed his vision. This isn't something I can decide alone. We need to go back and discuss it in a meeting. We don't have any other options now. Vice President Zhang forced a smile. I understand. Such a big decision must be taken seriously. For the first lunar exploration, you can send 100 people along, with all expenses waived. Many ideas and concepts cannot rely solely on imagination. They must be experienced firsthand. All right, I'll organize this exploration team when I return. Afterward, Zheng Fan took Vice President Zhang and his team to visit Lunar 1. With the experience and data from the first test, this trial progressed much faster, and they achieved more precise control over the spacecraft's temperature and magnetic field. As they would eventually need to transport a large number of people, ensuring safety was paramount. Accompanying them was a manager from the business department of the Aerospace Group, who, upon seeing the vast interior of Lunar 1, couldn't help but ask, "You will still conduct such launch tests today, right?" "Yes. We plan to have 3 to 5 more tests to ensure it's safe enough to take people to the moon," Zheng Fan replied. Such a large carrying capacity would be a shame to waste. It could carry all the spacecraft and satellites launched by humanity over decades in just one go. Chapter 213. Satellite launch. If you have any satellites that need launching, we can take them up for free as a gesture of goodwill. And it could also kickstart our cooperation in this area. Zheng Fan hadn't thought of this before. Mr. Zheng, you might mean well, but satellites are not cheap. What if something goes wrong and you end up losing money? Business is business. The necessary profits must be secured. You only need to offer a low enough price to crush all competitors. Vice President Zhang clearly had more concerns. I see your point. We also don't have the channels for this. How about this? You handle contacting clients who need the service, sign contracts, and set prices. We'll just be responsible for launching and placing them into orbit, and we'll split the profits evenly. After finishing, Zheng Fan introduced the robot butler, Yu Li, who had been accompanying them during the visit, to handle the specific negotiations. The boss couldn't do everything himself. After sending off the Aerospace Group team, Zheng Fan finally had a moment to rest. Lying on a makeshift lounge chair placed on the glass platform atop Lunar 1, it was quite a leisurely and pleasant experience. Unfortunately, the tranquility didn't last long as it was interrupted by a phone call. Upon picking it up, he saw it was a video call from his wife. And when he connected, he was met with the sight of his daughter crying. The scene tugged at his heartstrings, and he quickly employed all his tricks to console her. After a few minutes, he finally saw her break into a smile through the screen. Though he had been away for less than a week, it was the first time since his daughter was born that they had been apart for such a long time. The first person she saw when she came into this world was her father, and every day upon waking, he was the first person she would see. In her 6 months of life, he had always been by her side whenever she woke up, and this was the longest she had gone without seeing him. While he was on a business trip, his wife took their daughter to work with her. Initially, in the unfamiliar environment, their daughter was curious and played happily. But soon, something seemed off, and she suddenly burst into tears. At first, his wife managed to console her, saying Daddy is on a trip and will be back in a few days. They could communicate through a 3D projection at home each night, which helped alleviate their daughter's emotions. However, as the days passed without seeing her father, the situation finally escalated. The little girl, having her own temperament, cried endlessly, leaving his wife feeling helpless, and she had to call for help during work hours. After hanging up, he immediately booked a flight, anxious to return. He nearly missed his flight in the late afternoon, and after a 3-hour flight back to the capital, he arrived home around 10 at night. Usually at this hour, their daughter would already be asleep, but today she was still awake, sitting on the bed playing with toys as if she had been waiting specifically for him. When she heard the door, both mother and daughter turned their heads. With her little hands pushing against the bed, she sprang up and leaped towards him. Thankfully, he was quick and managed to catch her in time. Otherwise, she would have fallen off the bed. Perhaps she was indeed tired, as after a few calls to him, she quickly fell asleep in his arms. This daughter, I carried for 10 months, and she doesn't seem close to me at all, his wife complained. He carefully laid their precious girl on the bed and reassured his wife, kids don't think that much. You've spent less time with her. Just spend more time with her in the future. She certainly thinks a lot. Every day she asks for her dad right on time. I've comforted her once or twice, but today I couldn't console her at all. She wouldn't drink milk and just cried. His wife replied, this shows our child is smart. You should be happy about it. She'll have a bright future. I see a lot of your traits in her. Now that you mention it, it does seem that way. I was a bit stubborn when I was young too. You're the same now, otherwise. You wouldn't have waited for me. Stop being so vain. How are things over there? You're not in trouble, are you? There's a shortage of people. Some tasks are difficult for robots. I hope others can hold up. You stay at home all day without participating in any activities. It's no wonder you don't meet anyone. Why not quit being the president and come manage our family business? Right now is a critical period for the expansion of our product, and I can't just give up halfway. I wouldn't know what to do over there anyway. Since it's developed by robots, just leave it to them. I see you're just an employee at this point, and they won't listen to you anyway. Li Hong looks down on his so-called family business. Her analysis is indeed accurate. Nominally he is the boss, but both Wu Qi and Nu Hua have their own ideas. They only come to him when they need help. And he doesn't proactively report anything when he isn't asked. Other bosses might have mixed feelings about such employees, but Zhang Fan doesn't mind. He doesn't have a strong desire for control, and having such easygoing subordinates suits him just fine. For a while, Zhang Fan focused on taking care of the child at home, while he handed over all matters related to Lunar One and the Lop Ner base to Yuli. They conducted 3 more launch tests afterward, sending dozens of satellites into orbit. These satellites came from different countries and had various orbits and weights, all arranged through a space technology group, with the price for entering orbit being half of the lowest market rate. In the past, these satellites would have taken a whole year's worth of rocket launches worldwide, but now they could all be placed in orbit within hours. The news stimulated some smaller countries, revealing that launching satellites could be this simple. The Space Technology Group received numerous production orders for satellites, which can be seen as a silver lining. Surprisingly, the largest potential client turned out to be Musk, who had suffered the greatest losses. He planned to launch 10,000 Starlink satellites at once. If he followed his own plan, it would take him 3 to 4 years to launch them, costing $20 to $30 billion. Now he could do it for just $1 billion, and the cost for mass production of satellites could be lowered, making it an incredibly good deal. Musk's idea also inspired the leadership at the Space Technology Group. They had similar plans earlier, but had to shelve them due to high launch costs. Now, the main expenses were related to satellite manufacturing, and they were confident in their manufacturing capabilities. Why should he monopolize low Earth orbit? Zhang Fan didn't intend to get involved in this dispute. He maintained a detached mindset, aiming to promote human focus beyond Earth through low-cost lunar travel, thereby reducing internal conflicts over time. Eventually, humanity should come together, right? Zhang Fan originally planned to join the first group of travelers to the moon, but considering the round trip would take over 10 days, and his daughter would miss him, it wouldn't be wise to return midway. After much thought, he decided to postpone the trip until his daughter was older and more understanding. Chen Fei, the president of a reptilian technology company, transformed into the leader of the lunar travel group, even bringing her boyfriend Lu Yu along to train with the tourists daily. The day before their departure, Zhang Fan invited the two of them to his home for a visit, hosting them together with Li Hong. I should have gone with you for the first trip, but my daughter can't be without me. So this time, you'll have to take on the risk. Zhang Fan said apologetically. Don't say that. Your boss should stay in the rear. It's not common to be on the front lines. Besides, leading the first tour group to the moon is such an honor. I'm actually looking forward to it. Chen Fei said with a smile. Exactly. You have no idea how envious Wang Ben is of us. Something we never even dared to dream about is about to come true. This is enough to boast about for a lifetime. Li Yu chimed in. The Interstellar Travel Agency will give you 20% of the shares. Another 20%. You will be responsible for recruiting assistants or partners. In the future, I won't interfere with the specific operations. It will all be up to you. Zheng Fan promised. 20%? Isn't that a bit much? Chen Fei had a feeling Zheng Fan would make some offer, but she didn't expect it to be this generous. You know I prefer to be hands-off. Charging 100,000 per person for the tour is a bit extravagant, so consider it compensation for your future efforts. Zheng Fan explained patiently. Hee, you don't have to look at me. He makes the big decisions in our family, and the shares were discussed between us. I hope you all treat this travel agency as your own business. Li Hong added. Zheng Fan, you're being a bit mischievous. Now she has more money than my dad. If she kicks me out in the future, I'll hold you responsible. Lu Yu joked half seriously. If your dad can't control you, what use is it for you to lean on me? If Chen Fei kicks you out, it's definitely your fault. I'll be on her side. Exactly. Chen Fei is one of us now. You're the outsider, so be careful. Li Hong echoed. See that? This will be my backing in the future. You better serve her well, or you won't have any good outcomes. Chen Fei boasted. From now on, I'll treat you like royalty, and you can just give me orders. Amidst the anticipation of the crowd, the First Moon tour group set off. In addition to 200 lucky tourists, there were also 100 foreign scientists, over 100 domestic scientists, a 100-member research team from the aerospace group, and more than 500 people in total, including the future tour guide team organized by Chen Fei. Wu Qi led a research team of over 1,000 robots to the moon, aside from her. Everyone else would stay on the moon to work and would later go to other locations with the probes to conduct exploration and development. Aside from Zheng Fan, no one else was aware of these plans. The robots, apart from a few acting as attendants on the spacecraft, would not interact with the tourists or members of the research teams. Each participant would receive a set of smart spacesuits and a pair of special boots. The spacesuits were made of 2 thin layers of special fabric, resembling a tactical jacket. The difference was that the top had an integrated hood which, when worn, could pull down a transparent visor, completely sealing the head. Though this spacesuit appeared structurally simple, it was highly advanced, capable of detecting the environment to automatically maintain temperature, generating power using solar energy and temperature differentials, shielding against cosmic rays, and featuring a built-in microcirculation system to ensure oxygen supply. The helmet had a special communication device that could receive broadcasts for simultaneous interpretation and could also connect via voice to communicate with a specific member. No matter how powerful the clothing functions are, they only serve a preventive purpose. Without dietary supplements, no matter how advanced the spacesuits are, they cannot guarantee human survival in space for an extended period. The interior of the spacecraft is divided into 4 zones: east, west, south, and north, surrounding a central fusion reactor. The orientation in space is not relevant. It's merely to accommodate habits from Earth. Each zone is marked with numerous signs to prevent disorientation. All the individuals reside in the eastern zone, which is divided into 15 levels, each with 4 corridors measuring 30 meters long. Each corridor has 6 rooms on either side, totaling 48 rooms per level, with each room covering nearly 30 square meters, including an 8 square meter bathroom, and each room accommodates 2 people. They occupy less than 7 levels of the rooms. The layout of the rooms is similar to that of a typical hotel, except that all furnishings, including cabinets, beds, and floors, are made of alloys, seamlessly connected to the walls and floors, with soft padding on edges and flat surfaces to prevent impacts. Once the spacecraft enters space, both the ground and the surfaces become magnetic, ensuring that all items remain in place. The clothing and shoes provided feature special designs that allow them to maintain a downward gravitational effect. Although it's not as free as on Earth, it ensures normal movement without the sensation of floating. Of course, when sleeping, they can only secure themselves with sleeping bags fixed to the bed, and using the restroom requires a special negative pressure toilet device. They can also deactivate the gravitational function of their suits to float around and experience weightlessness. On the 13th level, there is a cafeteria spanning several thousand square meters, while the 14th level has a similarly sized hall for gatherings. Unfortunately, these areas will be closed during weightlessness. The gym on the 15th level, however, remains open, allowing them to conduct muscle training even in a weightless state. During the ascent, for safety reasons, everyone must return to their rooms, don their spacesuits, and secure themselves in their sleeping bags. They can sleep or use voice control to activate a 3-dimensional projection to witness the launch of the spacecraft. Chen Fei and Lu Yu naturally share a room, with 2 sleeping bags side by side on a double bed, securing them both. After a few minutes of slight vibrations, a tightening sensation envelopes them. And from the 3-dimensional projection, they can see the spacecraft, Lunar 1, leaving the ground and beginning its slow ascent. The perspective of the 3-dimensional projection looks down from the spacecraft, showing the warehouses below becoming progressively smaller, while the visible area of the ground expands. The spot where the spacecraft was docked appears unusually flat and smooth, like a square mirror reflecting light. After several seconds, The sensation of being restrained fades as the spacecraft ceases to accelerate and begins to ascend at a constant speed, a process that will last about an hour. By this time, the spacecraft has risen above the clouds, and everything on the ground appears tiny. They can even see distant cities and mountains. Inside the spacecraft, within the rooms and their individual sleeping bags and smart spacesuits, there are independent temperature control and oxygen circulation systems to ensure their comfort and safety. A few minutes later, both of them suddenly felt a lightness in their bodies, as if they were in an elevator descending rapidly. It was the sensation of weightlessness, and they knew they had officially entered space. At this moment, the projection angle shifted, and it felt as though they had transitioned directly from day to night, with countless stars appearing clearer than ever, as if they could reach out and touch them. A robotic voice, similar to that of a flight attendant, came through the built-in headphones of their spacesuits. Dear passengers, the Lunar One spacecraft has entered space. You may now exit your sleeping bags and move freely. The smart spacesuits will automatically activate gravity mode to help you adapt. You can also turn it off and restart it using voice commands or the button on the back of your hand. The observation deck at the top of the spacecraft has reopened, and we welcome you to experience it. This concludes the announcement. Lu Yu immediately opened his sleeping bag and tried to get out. As he lifted his leg, his body floated up slowly, as if in a movie in slow motion. Wow, this is something. Lu Yu couldn't help but exclaim, but he was grateful that nearly a month of training had paid off. He twisted his body to control his feet downward, and, with the assistance of the suit's gravity system, he finally managed to stand on his feet, albeit awkwardly. Chen Fei was much more natural. She opened her sleeping bag, sat up first, then moved her legs, guiding her feet directly into her space boots, bending down to fasten them before standing up. See, this is why you should pay attention in class. You should have put your shoes on first, Chen Fei criticized. At this moment, Lu Yu was in a very awkward position. Every time he bent down or lifted a foot, his body would tilt over, slowly turning upside down. What usually felt like a simple task of putting on shoes had become incredibly difficult. Help me. How do I put on my shoes with my head down? Lu Yu called out for assistance, realizing that all his strength was useless in the weightlessness of space. Idiot. First, turn off gravity mode, then slowly adjust your body, Chen Fei said while slowly making her way around to his side. She noticed that walking felt somewhat like moving through muddy ground, with a peculiar sticky sensation. Chen Fei reached Lu Yu's suspended body, using her hands to help rotate him 180 degrees until he was upright. Then, she held his shoulders while he exerted a lot of effort to finally get his shoes on. After turning gravity mode back on, he could walk, albeit unsteadily. The advantage of having strength was evident in gravity mode, as Lu Yu's movements were much quicker than Chen Fei's. Once they left the room, Chen Fei switched off gravity mode, and her body floated sideways, gliding forward like swimming. She quickly left Lu Yu behind. At that moment, she understood the purpose of the ear-shaped protrusions on the walls. Pushing against them allowed her to propel herself forward rapidly. This method was quite different from swimming, as the resistance was minimal. A single push could keep her drifting forward, though she would eventually come to a stop since it wasn't a vacuum. The moment Lu Yu was thrown several meters away, he anxiously switched off the gravity mode. The benefits of his strength became evident as he pushed hard against the wall and shot out like a cannonball, quickly surpassing Chen Fei, only to thud his head against the wall ahead. Haha, serves you right. Chen Fei burst into laughter. Luckily, the wall was covered with a thick, shock-absorbing layer. Otherwise, he would have ended up in the hospital. Next to the elevator were two newly opened circular entrances with a 3-meter diameter, marked with arrows indicating the up and down directions. These were the passages for the weightless state. The two of them held hands and entered the upward passage, using the wall for leverage to rise. People were continuously entering through the layers of entrances, and fortunately, the passage was spacious enough for them to ascend without interfering with each other. In less than a minute, the passage reached its end. They held hands and floated up from the passage, with an endless starry sky above them. The huge glass dome seemed to vanish, making it feel as if they were truly in the vast vacuum of space. Looking around, there were already a couple of hundred people here, making them feel insignificant in this open square. When they had visited this rooftop platform from the ground, it had felt spacious, but now, the space felt three-dimensional, allowing them to drift to any corner. This sensation was truly indescribable, both peculiar and wonderfully exquisite. Looking back, the enormous Earth lay beneath them. The spacecraft had flown into the shadow of the Earth, and it was now night there. They could see the dark land and ocean, along with the twinkling lights of the night scenery. The densely clustered lights must represent important urban areas. The view is beautiful, Chen Fei exclaimed. After drifting for a while, the novelty wore off, and like many others, they activated the gravity mode and slowly descended to the glass floor at the edge of the building. It felt like a dream, so magical. We really made it to space. Lu Yu still found it hard to believe. Yes, this lifetime was worth it. We didn't live in vain. A member of a nearby tour group chimed in. Those who went to space before couldn't move around as freely as we do, right? We are the first true space tourists. The International Space Station has less than 1,000 cubic meters of activity space. Here, they could even play soccer. Look, sunrise. The spacecraft had passed out of the Earth's shadow, and the obscured sun quickly reappeared. The sunrise here was a completely different experience from that on Earth. Without the protection of the atmosphere, the sunlight was blinding against the dark background and couldn't be looked at directly. Within just a few seconds, it fully revealed itself, showing the areas on Earth illuminated by sunlight rapidly expanding. After a dozen seconds, they had flown from night into day. A few hours later, with sufficient speed, the spacecraft entered the lunar transfer orbit. They watched as the Earth gradually receded behind them while the moon slowly approached. The announcement sounded again, "Dear passengers, it's time for lunch." In the weightless state of space, to avoid the risk of food debris being inhaled, please return to your rooms for dining. The self-service ordering system is now enabled. This concludes the announcement. Each room has a 2-meter-long table and 2 chairs against the wall, which can be used for both work and dining. Next to the wall is a touch-screen display where they can choose from a variety of food and drink options, including dozens of Chinese and Western dishes. The selection is not overly abundant, but it is also not monotonous. Below the touchscreen is the food delivery outlet, and within a minute of making their choice, the food will be delivered. Each person can select 1 main dish, 2 side dishes, and 1 drink. Everything is delivered in fully sealed soft plastic packaging, along with disposable utensils. On the other side of the table is the garbage disposal entrance, where all waste can be thrown in and will be quickly sucked away, decomposed by nanobots. If something is disposed of incorrectly, it will also be rapidly decomposed, so no need to retrieve it. When the dining table mode is selected, long, narrow gaps about 2 to 3 millimeters wide appear on the table surface, creating a slight suction that will pull away any food scraps produced, preventing them from floating around. Eating in this environment for the first time makes it hard to taste anything. One must chew silently with their mouth closed, or else food might accidentally float out, which would be quite embarrassing. It's no wonder the cafeteria is not open, with hundreds of people together. The experience of food scraps floating everywhere is unbearable to even think about. After finishing their first meal in a weightless state, the two took turns experiencing their first trip to the restroom in zero gravity. The initial romantic feeling quickly faded, and it was not as pleasant as they had imagined. The journey to the moon only takes 24 hours, and to minimize inconvenience, the shower system on the spacecraft is temporarily shut down. Returning to the square at the top of the spacecraft, there were fewer people than before the meal, likely because many needed to take a nap. However, there were still plenty of Pure Tour group members engaging in discussions about their experiences. These few hours were likely unforgettable for a lifetime. With communication relays for the third and fourth crawling vehicles, they could still connect to the internet here, though the speed was a bit slow and the latency long, but still within an acceptable range. Forget about online gaming, but sending and receiving messages and browsing news was still possible. The videos and photos sent back from here unsurprisingly caused a sensation. The 3D projection video of the spacecraft taking off, the massive glass dome square, the endless starry sky, and photos and short videos capturing glimpses of Earth changed the views of many skeptics and left believers drooling in envy. The number of reservations for lunar tours by the Interstellar Crawling Travel Agency has surpassed 100,000 and is rapidly increasing. These are all people who have paid the full fee of 100,000, and with batches of 5,000 every 10 days as planned, they would have enough to keep busy for over half a year. Chen Fei has just become the second largest shareholder of the travel agency and certainly hopes to make more money. However, with the amount of people signing up, she quickly contacted the staff remaining at the company to pause full charging and allow for free reservations first. After an exciting and thrilling day, they went to bed following the usual routine. They initially thought that being in a weightless state would make it difficult to sleep, but surprisingly, both of them fell asleep quickly. When they woke up the next day and returned to the top plaza of the spacecraft, the enormous moon was clearly visible, and Earth had transformed into a distant circle. Chapter 216. Lunar Sports Festival. The spacecraft had entered a deceleration orbit around the moon, and the moon's diameter was nearly 3,500 kilometers. At this moment, the spacecraft appeared insignificant compared to the moon, with its craters looking exceptionally clear. The deceleration took over 3 hours, while the descent lasted less than half an hour, much faster than on Earth. During the landing, they still had to secure themselves in their sleeping bags, but could watch the live 3D projection. As the spacecraft descended closer to the surface, they realized that the current moon was not desolate. Near their landing site, there was a glass dome structure resembling the top plaza of the spacecraft. These enormous glass domes were interconnected by transparent tubular passages. Some domes already contained dark buildings, while others featured colorful stones, and a few were completely empty. The spacecraft landed on the moon's surface with a slight tremor, and the gentle voice of the robotic flight attendant announced, "Dear passengers, The Lunar 1 spacecraft has landed safely. The restrooms are now back in service, and the dining hall has reopened. We wish you a pleasant experience. This announcement is concluded. Fei-Fei, can we go down and take a look? Lu Yu asked as he opened his sleeping bag and slowly emerged, feeling much more mobile now. He appreciated the benefits of gravity. Even if it was only 1/6 that of Earth, it was still much better than being in space. Not yet. They just started construction down there, and we need the supplies we brought to finish it. We can enter in 3 days, Chen Fei explained. Just telling me 1T help. Of course, I'll listen to you, but everyone else probably wants to go outside. It's a rare chance to come to the moon. It would be such a pity not to leave a footprint. Lu Yu replied. Actually, the spacesuits we're wearing can support outdoor activities. However, once we step outside, the spacesuits become our only protection. I'm worried some people might act recklessly. And if an accident happens, it would be difficult to explain later. It's not that we can't go out. We just need to wait. As they spoke, they tidied their clothes and left their room, heading towards the rooftop plaza. In the corridor, they encountered other tourists who had just come out, greeting each other. The plaza had become the center of collective activities, with the circular passages above and below now closed, the entrance appearing as a smooth, flat wall, completely unrecognizable from its earlier state. They took the elevator to the dome plaza of the spacecraft. Most people in the plaza had gathered in one direction, and they joined in to look down. The glass domes, which seemed small during the descent, now appeared quite large, with the biggest one nearly the same height as their spacecraft. Outside this large glass dome, 4 similar structures can be seen, connected by thousands of meters of glass pipelines, forming an enormous square. In the center of this square, there is a much smaller semicircular glass dome, housing a massive device they all recognize as a nuclear fusion reactor, just like the one in their spacecraft. As they approach, many people greet Chen Fei, and some directly ask, Manager Chun, why are the passages and elevators closed? When can we go out for a visit? Doesn't the spacesuit have protective functions? Why can't we go out yet? Supplies are being transported below. Please wait for 3 days. These supplies are meant to facilitate your living conditions, and we hope for your understanding, Chen Fei explains, but not everyone is satisfied with her response. They have no choice. The agreement clearly states that travelers must unconditionally follow instructions, or the company has the right to take mandatory measures. Moreover, their reasoning is to ensure the safety of the travelers, which isn't wrong. After all, it's the first group trip, and in case of an accident, others may not care about the details. It would be the travel agency that faces the consequences. To prevent everyone from being idle, Lu Yu takes the initiative to relieve his wife's worries and suggests, how about we hold a lunar sports event here? This square is so large that we can accommodate most competition events. His suggestion brightens everyone's spirits. Yes, they can't be idle for several days. This idea is great as it alleviates boredom and has significant commemorative value. The travel group is indeed full of talent. There are over a dozen national-level athletes, along with referees, physical education teachers, and many other professionals. In less than half an hour, they jokingly elected the first organizing committee for the lunar sports event. As the head of the travel group and president of the travel agency, Chen Fei naturally became the chairperson of the committee. Lu Yu, as the proponent of the event and a graduate of a sports university who is now a martial arts coach, was elected as an executive member of the committee and the head of the referee group, responsible for selecting referees and resolving disputes to ensure the event proceeds smoothly. Then everyone started discussing the competition events. High jump, long jump, and weightlifting are a must, while shot put and discus could also be tried. Short sprints of 50 meters and 100 meters, hurdles, and middle distance races can include anyone who signs up. For ball games, table tennis, badminton, and tennis are all possible. Team sports like soccer, basketball, and volleyball can also be attempted depending on the number of participants. To enhance competitiveness, the over 500 people were divided into teams: a tourist representative team, a domestic expert team, an aerospace team, and an international expert team. Individual events can be signed up for freely, and each team for the 3 major ball games will organize a team to participate. The gender ratio may be uneven, but the competitions do not distinguish between genders, as the low gravity here may minimize those differences. There are also many sports equipment brought from Earth, and if something is lacking, it can be temporarily manufactured, which is a strong suit of the nanorobots, likely just as sturdy and durable as those on Earth. Just discussing the competition events and accepting registrations took up the entire morning. Fortunately, the focus was on entertainment, so it didn't need to be too serious. Around noon, more than a dozen committee members worked overtime in a meeting to arrange the schedule, and the competition started in the afternoon. With over 500 participants, it was surprising that more than 400 registered. Many scientists in their 60s were eager to participate, with events like high jump, long jump, weightlifting, and sprints all having participants. After all, those who were selected must have decent physical fitness. If each event were to be held individually, a week wouldn't be enough. So to compress the schedule, the committee had to temporarily add rules. Each individual could only register for 3 events, and if there were scheduling conflicts, they could only participate in one. High jump, long jump, and sprints had the most registrants, but fortunately, the venue was large enough to divide them into several groups to compete simultaneously. For the long jump, special sand pits were dug on the rooftop and filled with fine lunar soil. As for the high jump bars and weights, those were readily available as well. The square was marked with various track lanes as required, and additional robotic referees ensured professionalism, with familiar athlete marches filling the air, creating a vibrant atmosphere. Of course, arranging the schedule and overseeing the referees didn't require Chun Fei, the chairperson, to handle those tasks. She needed to coordinate the production of various competition equipment and matters requiring robotic assistance. Chun Fei realized that this activity could be sustained over the long term. The moon was barren everywhere, and ordinary people might quickly grow tired of it, but surely there should be some activities to engage in during their visit. The sports event was a great idea and could serve as a unique feature of lunar travel. Chapter 217. Confrontation. As the #1 employee and president of a tech company, it was Chun Fei's first time meeting the company's chief scientist, Wu Qi, and surprisingly, it happened on the moon. Both of them had short hair and similar styles, and their working methods were alike as well. This meeting was arranged at Chun Fei's strong insistence, and after some negotiation from Zhang Fan, they formally shook hands. And Wu Qi did not hide her reluctance. Let us get to the point. My time is limited. As the president of a tech company, can you please show me some respect? Agreeing to meet you is already a sign of respect. Zhang Fan arranged this meeting to discuss matters, not to hear you lecture. Wu Qi maintained her usual demeanor, unaware that someone like Zhang Fan, who had such a good temper, was actually a rarity, especially among leaders who could hardly tolerate challenges to their authority. Well then, as president, shouldn't I be informed about ongoing projects and future plans? Shouldn't I have at least some right to voice my opinions? Chun Fei questioned. However, she was abruptly interrupted as soon as Wu Qi opened her mouth. Don't use Zhang Fan to pressure me. He didn't assign you to lead me, nor did he say you could command me, right? If you feel your power is insufficient, you can come and be the president. I'm willing to step aside. After years as a lawyer, Chun Fei quickly left Wu Qi speechless with a few words, as she knew full well that Wu Qi could never out-argue a lawyer. I believe in Zhang Fan, and Zhang Fan is willing to trust you as well. There are no fundamental contradictions between us. Expanding and strengthening the company aligns with our mutual interests. I know you are obsessed with research and reluctant to be distracted by other matters, but your current approach, even if your intentions are for humanity, will ultimately make you an enemy of mankind. You may not care about life or death, but have you ever considered the impact on Zhang Fan, who has always trusted you? His entire family might suffer because of you. That's impossible. With our current strength, no country on earth can contend with us. Wu Qi clearly feels unconvinced. This is the problem. Wu Qi looked at her in confusion, his eyes revealing sarcasm. Are you joking? Our company is too powerful. Zhang Fan is too naive, and you are too ignorant. Lawyer Chun Fei's analytical mind zeroed in on the core of the issue. These were thoughts she had only vaguely considered before, but under Wu Qi's provocation, she increasingly felt her analysis was valid. Her words also compelled Wu Qi to reflect. Intelligent people can easily get stuck in their own reasoning, but the advantage of robots is precisely their rationality, allowing them to think without emotional interference. The emergence of artificial intelligence has already disrupted the original power structure on Earth. If given enough time to evolve, it is possible that a global united government led by Zhang Fan's Envision Nation could emerge. Now, with robots entering human society in large numbers and increasingly replacing human labor, the realization of communism in the future is not out of the question. As Chun Fei spoke, she gradually organized her thoughts. But you are developing too quickly in space. You have exposed yourselves too early. Right now, the human elites may still be shocked by your strength and have not reacted yet. I dare say that within a year, there could be a coalition forming against you among humans. If you understand human history, you should know that often, those who are irreconcilable enemies were once close partners. If this is true among humans, how much more so for you, who, aside from Zhang Fan, are all robotic life forms, almost completely independent of humanity? Without the burden of humans, you might develop even faster. They cannot entrust their lives to your limited inner constraints. Our mission is to serve humanity. Wu Qi replied weakly. Reptilian Technology is a private company, entirely owned by Zhang Fan. It is because of his unconditional trust and full support that you have developed to your current scale. If Zhang Fan and his family were removed, theoretically, anyone could take control of this company and issue orders to you. That's impossible. Zhang Fan's speed and reflexes mean that ordinary firearms cannot harm him. Wu Qi's high IQ reasoning began to be led by Chun Fei, and even she felt her argument was somewhat forced. What if a sleazy fat man made you kneel at his feet and lick his toes? Would you do it? That's impossible. We robots also have dignity. Fine, let us change the command. Have you drive Lunar 1 to destroy a city? That's impossible. We cannot harm humans. That city is full of devastating viruses. Only by completely destroying it can we save all of humanity. That's impossible. There are no such conditions. This cannot be done. Nor can that. Then you would become the enemy of humanity. Not everyone in this world can unconditionally trust you as Zhang Fan does. Respect you. Support you. Those space robots and the larger number of nanobots can only be commanded by you and Yuhua, right? What will you do then? Chen Fei, having grasped the initiative, began her counterattack. Wu Qi's thoughts became somewhat chaotic, while she could think clearly about physics and mathematics. Chen Fei's assumptions and countless possibilities caused her chip to overheat a bit. Your foundation in human society is too weak. Yet you possess a vast power that doesn't match it. That is the original sin. So what should we do? One option is to sever ties with human society. Whether you go to Venus, Mars, or other planets, to develop independently. However, humans can still produce countless robots like you. Technologically, they will eventually catch up. Once you meet again, you may have reservations, but they may not, and they will eventually eliminate you. There's definitely no way we can take that path. Wu Qi's response was resolute. The other option is to use your power to seek the greatest authority in human society and reshape and dominate it according to your will. Chen Fei habitually applied methods used against humans to deal with Wu Qi, but unfortunately, her calculations were in vain. Chen Fei's tempting words immediately struck a red line in Wu Qi's logical thinking, causing her overheated thought center to calm down instantly. This is not something we should be considering. If you have nothing else, this meeting ends here. Wu Qi turned around and walked toward the door without hesitation. Her behavior astonished Chen Fei. Just moments ago, she was dazed and confused, but how did she suddenly become clear-headed? Just as Wu Qi was about to reach the door, Chen Fei recalled the purpose of this meeting and hurriedly called out, "Help us produce a batch of medals and trophies for our sports event. They need to have lunar characteristics, be commemorative, and not too expensive. We plan to continue holding this sports event as a special project for lunar tourism." Wu Qi walked out without pausing at all, and as the door closed automatically, her voice came through, "Understood." Chapter 218 Wu Qi. The first meeting between the two ended on an unhappy note. Such confrontations were routine for Chen Fei. She had been eloquent since childhood, which is why she attended a law school and became a lawyer. Despite being under 30, she was unmatched in debate. Her words were all improvised, and she rarely thought deeply about them afterward, yet they had a significant impact on Wu Qi's thinking. Akin to a nuclear fusion, this was a realm her thought had never entered since her creation. The idea of dominating or eliminating humanity is blasphemous to the minds of these robots. The core programming would automatically trigger adverse reactions, which is also why Wu Qi quickly regained her clarity earlier. The first time such thoughts occur, it serves as a simple warning. Ordinary robots will develop a conditioned reflex to automatically avoid such thoughts in the future. If warnings are frequent, it will trigger a company-level response from the brainwave robots, leading to emergency maintenance to identify the cause and take appropriate action. If external factors are at play, a memory wipe will be conducted, and the robot will be reassigned from its original work environment. If the thoughts are self-generated, a memory wipe will occur at the first instance, and reassignment will follow. The second instance will result in direct recall and destruction. Currently, over 10 million robots have been produced, with many cases of the first type typically arising from certain research institutions conducting tests, as well as some individuals with ill intentions attempting to use robots for malicious purposes, all of which have been swiftly resolved following warnings. The second type of cases is rare, occurring when robots are subjected to extreme and abnormal treatment or witness the darker sides of humanity. Such clients will be placed on the company's blacklist and receive special attention from law enforcement agencies. The person in charge of this work is Yuan Yuan, who is alongside Zhang Fan and leads the Robot Self-Regulation Committee. Each robot can multitask, but their computational capacity is limited. Therefore, as the number of robots increases, the committee is also expanding. Each member's monitoring assignments are not static. Their terms generally last 3 months, primarily responsible for promptly reporting warnings from monitored members. Yuan Yuan naturally received Wakiki's warning information immediately. Due to varying contributions, robots have different point scores. Wakiki has ranked first due to her research contributions over the past year, while the second place, Nuwa, has seen Yuan Yuan's points drop out of the top 10 6 months ago, as her contributions do not compare to those in research. Fortunately, Wakiki's warning was a one-time event and did not trigger a company-level response. Zhang Fan, who was busy soothing a child, was also aware of the situation. Right after Chen Fei requested to meet the chief scientist, Wakiki issued a mental warning, indicating a connection between the two events. It seems our nearby robots haven't triggered any warnings yet. How do you handle it according to your rules? Zhang Fan inquired. If there are 2 warnings triggered within 24 hours, or a cumulative total of 3 warnings, a company-level response is initiated, recalling the robots, investigating the cause, wiping memories, reassigning them, or even direct destruction. These rules were established by Yuan Yuan along with the first batch of robots. And it is the existence of these rules that allowed them to integrate into human society on a large scale. I mentioned wanting Wakiki to become the company president. Chen Fei must be feeling discontent about that, and this meeting is surely to provoke her. Zheng Fan believed that Wakiki, being innocent, had definitely fallen into Chen Fei's trap, as their lawyers excelled at this. If Wakiki's contributions directly triggered a company-level response, it would be extremely unfair and regrettable for her, and Zheng Fan would find it quite cruel. He needed to find a way to prevent such a situation from occurring. Please notify Wakiki to enter hibernation immediately. Upon her return from the moon, arrange for her to take on a lighter workload temporarily, and let Nuwa return to oversee the reptile laboratory. A slower pace in research is acceptable. Entering a dormant state will not trigger a company-level response. Upon returning, switching to a more relaxed position and experiencing the brighter side of humanity will help alleviate negative thoughts to some extent. There are many similarities between robotic and human thinking. What will happen to the four cities, Xianyuan, Shinnong, Chaoga, and Shiqi, on the moon? They have just begun construction, and now they might have to halt? Yuan asked. Feng Lanlan, having worked in construction and decoration for so long, can take charge of this. Wu Qi has brought so many assistants this time. Can't they share the workload and do well? If necessary, there are plenty of experts willing to participate. Before Wu Qi entered dormancy, he arranged for the production of medals and trophies. Medals will be awarded to the top 3 participants of each project, while trophies will only be given to the champion team of the team competition. Various synthetic materials have always been Wu Qi's focus of research, with the assistance of nanorobots. The current molecular-level material synthesis technology has far surpassed human scientists' imagination, making the production of these medals and trophies an excellent opportunity for a technical showcase. The gold, silver, and bronze medals are similar in color and size to conventional sports medals, but they do not contain precious metals. Instead, they are made from special alloys. The difference lies in the central design. The gold medal features a white, circular moon-shaped special material. The silver medal is semi-transparent and crescent-shaped, and the bronze medal has a transparent crescent shape. The ribbons for the medals are made from identical red special silk threads. The front of the medal features the title First Lunar Games and the event date, while the back will have the awarded project, with the recipient's name and score micro-engraved before the award ceremony. The trophy design is less intricate. It simply uses a miniature model of Lunar 1. And only features team competitions for volleyball, basketball, and soccer. The front displays the patterns of the balls along with the title First Lunar Games and the event date, while the back lists the awarded project and team members' names. After Chen Fei met with Wu Qi, they soon received the medals and trophies. After reviewing them, they were very satisfied and thought, no wonder Zheng Fan values this guy so much. The efficiency is impressive. That afternoon, after the competition concluded, the first batch of medals was distributed. Everyone was surprised that a game-like competition had medals. Those who didn't receive one felt regret, while those who did were quite pleased. Several scientists, however, frowned while holding the medals, pondering the composition and properties of this unfamiliar material. That night, Zheng Fan and Chen Fei held a private 3D video call, during which he carefully inquired about their conversation. After listening, he smiled wryly and said, "You might have acted out of momentary frustration, but Wu Qi is somewhat wronged. She has been engaged in research since her inception and doesn't harbor such complex thoughts. If a company-level response triggers a memory wipe, it would not only be a loss for our company, but also a significant loss for humanity." I didn't realize the consequences were so severe. As the developer of the robotic program and a major shareholder, can't you be an exception? Rules are rules. An exception once could lead to the entire system collapsing, and my position cannot be an exception either. What do you plan to do then? You have a point. I may have been overly optimistic and naive in many ideas. I'm preparing to make some changes. Let's discuss it in detail when you return from the moon. Zheng Fan ended the call. Chapter 219 Foundation. Zheng Fan returned to the living room from the communication room, where Li Hong was doing her bedtime yoga. Their daughter, Xingyu, was squatting beside her, watching intently and constantly reaching out her little hands to poke her mother, babbling away, though most of her words were unintelligible to others. Upon seeing Zheng Fan, the daughter stood up, raised her little arms, and he bent down to scoop her up, tossing her playfully a couple of times before catching her, which made her giggle. Sitting on the sofa with his daughter in his arms, Zheng Fan had a hesitant expression. Li Hong, who was stretching, noticed and asked with a smile, "What is so hard to say? How about we establish a foundation? What's the matter? Do you feel like you have too much money and it's a bit overwhelming?" That's one aspect, but mainly it's because Nuwa and Wu Qi are developing too quickly. The space power they control now is stronger than all of humanity combined. Our reptilian technology is a sole proprietorship, and having too much wealth can be a burden. If you just put the assets into the foundation while still retaining control, That wouldn't mean much, would it? Li Hong was very clear-headed and understood Zhang Fan's concerns. You know I'm not good at management. I don't need control, just some influence. I hope to select capable people from around the world to manage it together. Having too much wealth is a burden. I don't want to pass it on to the next generation. As long as we can educate and raise her to grow up healthy, we've fulfilled our responsibilities as parents. Seeing that his daughter was starting to get sleepy, Zhang Fan gently rocked her to help her fall asleep. As long as you've thought it through, I support your decision. Li Hong didn't think as far ahead, but her views on wealth and children's education aligned with his. When it comes to this point, it's hard to maintain one's original intention. Letting go of money can be a good way to resist temptation. Even without these huge shares, relying solely on their current savings and salary would still ensure a lifetime of comfort. Holding the title of wealthy individuals was more of a burden for a couple who didn't enjoy luxury and fame. After Brainwave Technology went public, Li Hong faced a dilemma. Everyone she knew was aware that her husband was Zhang Fan, whose wealth was astronomical. Many questioned why she still worked so hard. It was a source of frustration for her. Wealthy people still need to eat and sleep. They still age and fall ill. They don't have an extra head compared to ordinary people. They also need to work to fulfill themselves. What is wrong with that? Must one collect a large number of flashy luxury items, buy luxury cars, villas, planes, and yachts, and immerse oneself in the so-called high society to be considered truly wealthy? Reality often contradicts this. It reflects the mainstream perception of most people in society. Many who suddenly become rich continue such practices, while those who have already achieved financial freedom thanks to their predecessors merely accumulate different forms of enjoyment, self-proclaiming as aristocrats and arrogantly mocking the newly wealthy. In fact, how different are these two groups of people? What's even sadder is that such individuals lead societal trends, attracting the envy, admiration, and imitation of billions. Many people take pride in wearing extravagant and impractical luxury watches, or carrying limited edition bags worth tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands. They recite the so-called profound meanings of these brands as if they were treasured knowledge, and make them their goals in life. Is it laughable or pitiable? Around the time of the Spring Festival each year, several well-known media outlets, both domestic and international, release their latest lists of billionaires. Many eager individuals await to see who the new wealthy elite are and which old money tycoons have fallen from grace. This year marks the first billionaire list after the listing of a Brainwave Technology company, and everyone is curious whether the 8 shareholders will dominate the top 8 spots. With the massive influx of robots into human society, the stock price of the Brainwave Technology company has also surged. At the end of the year, the sudden emergence of the Moon 1 spacecraft from a tech company led to another spike in the stock price due to its connection with a prominent figure, pushing the total market value past 9 trillion. The first group of tourists from Moon 1 has successfully returned, and the excitement has yet to die down, while a second group of 5,000 is already on the way. A training center accommodating 20,000 people has been established in a desert area, and subsequent groups are currently in training. The 10-day round trip of Moon 1 is already scheduled for a year in advance. The valuation of such a massive spacecraft is beyond measure, especially considering the many cities and mines under construction on the Moon. At present, no country or company can compete with the tech company for lunar resources and land, making that value incalculable. It is said that the laboratories and apartments in the 4 cities under construction on the Moon are about to go on sale, and the selling prices will undoubtedly be astronomical. There is no doubt that the prominent figure is ranked as the richest person in the world. Yet when the new billionaire list comes out, his name is absent from the top 500. Subsequent investigations by journalists revealed that the sole proprietorship of the tech company has been transferred to a foundation, meaning he has donated all his company shares to this foundation. Aside from a house and some savings, he holds no company shares in his name. Not only is he absent from the global billionaire list, but he also doesn't even make the domestic lists. When the news broke, people around the world were astonished. Is there something wrong with his mind? Does he have a vendetta against money? Just a portion of the Brainwave Technology stocks that recently became available for sale is worth over 10 trillion. Not to mention several other companies waiting to go public, especially the tech company, which possesses resources and land on the Moon. How could someone just donate everything? Even those who claim to give away their fortunes, like former billionaires, typically do so after their deaths, donating only a portion during their lifetimes and still remaining among the wealthiest. How could he do this before even making the list? It's quite extreme. Amidst a chorus of skepticism, the foundation announced it was seeking 9 independent directors from around the world to participate in major decision-making, key personnel hiring, and financial reviews. Candidates were required to possess integrity, a solid economic background, independent thinking, and a combination of virtue and talent, as well as a willingness to accept oversight from the advanced AI named Aiching. Those appointed would receive no salary or dividends, and interested parties were invited to send their resumes to the company email. Not only were they donating money and shares, But they were also relinquishing management rights of the foundation, remaining anonymous and foregoing both profit and power, which seemed foolish to many. Yet, deep down, some couldn't help but admire this move and questioned how many people could truly do the same. After the tumult, Zhang Fan felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted, experiencing much relief. He spent his days practicing Tai Chi at home, taking care of children, and researching quantum computer design, returning to his former lifestyle. After returning from the moon, Wu Qi voluntarily requested to work at the auto repair shop, the place where she had first arrived, and thus became a mechanic. Occasionally, she would go on car rescue missions with the Lincoln Commander she had initially modified, finding the work much easier. The auto repair shop was close to the Foundation's laboratory, allowing Wu Qi to also participate in the lab's work. Zhang Fan turned a blind eye to this, recognizing that having her rest properly might be more difficult for her, similar to Li Hong, who couldn't sit still when idle. Under Chun Fei's guidance, the 9 directors of the Foundation were selected, all of whom were notable figures. With the vast data support from the advanced AI, it was impossible to fabricate resumes. The board included retired officials, scientists, and financially independent entrepreneurs, representing diverse backgrounds. Together with Zhang Fan and Chun Fei, they formed a board to decide how to allocate funds and utilize the resources of the Foundation to benefit humanity, develop the moon, and explore other planets. The 11-member board resembled a prototype of the United Nations. Due to an overwhelming number of applicants, after Aiching screening, there were still over 1,000 candidates with no issues regarding qualifications or integrity. Zhang Fan further selected experienced professionals from various industries to form the Strategic Advisory Committee for the Foundation, tasked with conducting forward-looking research on future development directions. Those who performed exceptionally were prioritized as potential substitute board members. Chapter 220. A dream of knowing one's guest. Zhang Fan hadn't dreamed in a long time, nor had he entered the game recently. After the first board meeting of the Foundation, he relaxed completely and entered the game that evening. As he fell asleep in the real world, he awoke in the game, beside a strange woman, only to realize she was his in-game wife. His wife, Lu Yun, came from the prestigious Lu family of Hedong, but at this time, the renowned Lu Zongyuan had not yet been born. Her family was significant but lacked influential figures. Her father, Lu Zhun, was merely a 7th-rank official in the palace. However, due to his good appearance, he caught the Emperor Li Yan's eye and was selected by the crown princess, ultimately rising to the position of 5th-rank national scholar due to his daughter's elevation. Their daughter did not sleep with them at night, but was taken care of by a wet nurse in the adjacent chamber. The royal customs were quite troublesome, which made Zhang Fan feel quite uncomfortable. When it was time to sleep, Zhang Fan lay on the inner side of the bed. He tried to quietly get up, but as soon as he moved, Lu woke up and smiled at him with sleepy eyes, then got up to summon the maid to help him get dressed. "Where's Linger?" "Husband, you forgot. Linger has reached the right age. She got married and left the palace last month." For a moment, Zhang Fan felt a bit dazed. In his memory, Linger was still that chatty little maid, always forgetting that she was 8 or 9 years older than him. He didn't know when she had faded from his side, and he missed the opportunity to hear her chatter. In the blink of an eye, she had already reached the age to leave the palace. He hoped she would be happy in the future. Life in the game was also quite ordinary. His time alone in governance was increasing, as the emperor often didn't hold court for a month at a time, spending his days in the harem with various beauties. Zhang Fan continued to exercise caution, keeping his routine unchanged, speaking and acting very formally, resembling an old scholar at a young age, making it impossible for anyone to find fault with him. Daily affairs were left for him to handle, with reports submitted in the afternoon. Now, even Li Yan felt that listening to reports was a waste of time, telling him to only report significant military matters and appointments of officials above the 3rd rank, while other matters didn't need daily reporting. Despite this, Zhang Fan had no intention of making drastic changes. He still proceeded step by step, at most being more meticulous in handling details, categorizing daily tasks, and recording them systematically, using some statistical methods to improve efficiency. Such a small reform significantly enhanced efficiency in the management of the entire country. Yuan Zai, the head of the officials, praised his methods and ordered their implementation across various departments in the court. It was said that just by reducing waste in financial resources, they could cut down expenses by 20%, and the time saved in processing affairs was immeasurable, which could be used for disaster relief, saving countless lives. Days passed by quickly in this monotonous life, and Zhang Fan could only feel the passage of time through the growth of his daughter in the game. From a wobbly toddler who could fall at any moment, she gradually grew into a graceful young girl. Over the years, Lu had given birth to 2 more sons for him. His eldest son, Li Kuei, was now 6 years old and of school age, while his second son, Li Ba, was already 3, reaching the age of being a lively and troublesome little boy. In a daze, Zhang Fan felt as if he had forgotten something important, but he couldn't recall what it was. Father, you promised to take me to Qiyun Temple. Can we go today? His daughter, Li Xiu'er, burst into the study, interrupting his thoughts. All right, we'll go today. Qiyun Temple, which he had heard Linger mention countless times, was a place he had yet to visit in his role as the crown prince. He rarely had opportunities to leave the palace and only did so for important matters, always returning quickly after completing his tasks. He had casually promised his daughter a few days ago, so she came to ask him every day. Today, since he had finished handling court affairs, it would be nice to go out for a bit. To avoid trouble, they both changed into inconspicuous plain clothes. The father and daughter took a carriage, accompanied by only a dozen guards, resembling a typical wealthy family outing. Li Xiu'er had rarely left the palace in her life, and this was her first trip with her father, which made her very excited. She leaned against the carriage window, gazing outside. Everything felt fresh and new. Although today was not the market day in front of the Qiyun Temple, the square was still bustling with activity, filled with various food vendors, small goods sellers, and a few performers showcasing their skills, which left her dazzled. The carriage stopped at the entrance of Qiyun Temple, and the leader of the guards went to speak with the host inside. The host warmly welcomed the father and daughter. Young Master Lu, please come in. He was using the alias Lu, bringing his daughter to pay respects at the temple. The original Qiyun Temple was located halfway up the mountain and had only one hall dedicated to the Supreme Laojun. Now, the temple had been rebuilt at the site of the former Tengwang Villa at the foot of the mountain, with much larger scale. The main hall now worshipped the three pure ones, while the side hall was said to enshrine the King Zhao, who had already ascended to immortality. They first paid their respects in the main hall, and then moved to the side hall, where they found a young man in simple robes sitting gracefully. The daughter exclaimed, "Sir, this immortal looks like you." The host chuckled and agreed. Young Master Lu does indeed resemble Lord Zhao. A bright future awaits. Xiu'er earnestly offered her prayers, kneeling with her hands clasped together. Zheng Fan, on the other hand, was observing the statue closely, frowning in thought. How long had it been since this past life identity? How long had he been in the game? This identity was already 28 years old, and his daughter was 10. Zheng Fan finally remembered what he had forgotten. Time. Could it be that time in dreams passed faster than in the game pod? Previously, spending 5 years in the game pod was already quite absurd. That was understandable since the character was in seclusion and cultivation. But now, he had many things to handle every day. Was it really like the tale of the Southern Governor, where one dream could last decades? The game pod could be set to remind him of time and could exit at any moment. But what about in dreams? He couldn't just wake up whenever he wanted. Zheng Fan reminded himself to wake up before going to sleep. But every time he opened his eyes, he was still in the game, unable to escape the dream. And his mood began to grow anxious. The lady from the Lu family, who had been sharing the same bed for 10 years, sensed his unease and asked before sleeping, "Your Highness, what troubles you these days? Can you share it with me so I may help you bear some of the weight?" How could he explain such matters? Being honest would be a bit too frightening. At this time, the legendary tale of the Southern Governor had not yet been written, but there were similar stories. After thinking for a moment, he said, "Have you heard of the story of Zhuang Zhou dreaming of being a butterfly? Did you have a strange dream, Your Highness?" Lu asked, turning to face him. "Something like that. I have been with you for 10 years, and I see you diligently studying governance every day without a moment's laziness. You manage your needs with frugality, acting without shame towards the emperor and without guilt towards the subjects. As the ancient saying goes, good people will have heavenly signs. What is there to worry about?" Lu, coming from a scholarly family, spoke eloquently and comforted him effectively. "You are right. I have been overthinking." Chapter 221. The emperor, since he cannot leave, he might as well make the best of it. Zheng Fan resumed his monotonous daily life. But he had already grown accustomed to it. The emperor had stepped back, allowing him to handle political affairs. He was only responsible for major decisions, while the chancellor's team and numerous officials in the 6 ministries managed the routine matters. On his 30th birthday, the Emperor Li Yan, who had not attended court for over a year, returned to announce his intention to follow the example of several predecessors and abdicate the throne in favor of the crown prince, thus bidding farewell to the previous dynasty completely. Li Yan's actions were not entirely unexpected. The preceding emperors had set a precedent, and he had hinted at similar intentions multiple times. Several high-ranking officials in the court were prepared for this, eager for the emperor who had been ineffective to step aside. The crown prince had been exhausted from waiting for over a decade, and an early ascension would reduce uncertainties. After a complicated ceremony, Li Yan retired, becoming the retired emperor. Zheng Fan's role in the game was that of the newly ascended Emperor Li Yu of the Tang dynasty, taking the reign title of Changji, with his eldest son Li Kuei designated as crown prince. It is well known that the decline of the Tang dynasty began with the Anlushan rebellion, which, despite being quelled, led to over a century of instability due to regional warlords and eunuchs meddling in politics, ailments that could not be cured and ultimately contributed to the dynasty's downfall. When Zheng Fan was still known as one of the 7 sons of the Tengwang, he had casually discussed similar issues with Crown Prince Li Hong. This was not merely a case of unnecessary worry. Since the Han Dynasty, eunuchs, powerful relatives, and regional warlords had always been the primary causes of national collapse. The recent emperors had generally been wise, maintaining stability in governance and implementing numerous preventive measures against these issues. At least during Zheng Fan's administration, there were no signs of such problems emerging. With internal strife under control, attention had to be paid to external threats. At this time, aside from the far west where the Luo Shan Protectorate occasionally clashed with a distant adversary, other regions had already been subdued. Even the adversaries had faced defeats multiple